Welcome everybody to the mid lane improvement tier list for season 16. We're going to be covering every single rank. We're going to be doing 3 separate tier lists. We're going to start with a lower elo one for unranked, iron and bronze. Then we're going to do a mid elo one for silver, gold and platinum. And then we're going to do a high elo one for emerald plus. Today I'm joined with AJ. Feel free to introduce yourself, AJ.
Hey guys, I'm sure most of you already know me because I'm in a lot of these tier lists with Tim already, but I'm a part of the MLA. I'm a challenger Yone player, but I play other champions in NA, and I'm here to help you guys figure out kind of what champion you want to play for improving.
Absolutely. So if you want to kickstart your champion pool and make sure that you're on the right track for climbing and improving in season 16, then this is the right video for you to watch. So let's start with the lower elo tier list, unranked, iron, and bronze. And this tier list is shaped through how good are these champions at allowing you to improve at the game. Hence is why it's improvement tier list. So there's a few reasons why the champions are currently listed the way they are. What we're going to do is we're going to go over the individual champions, why they are so incredibly good at teaching you the game in lower ranks. But the baseline idea behind it is that these champions allow you to focus on the game fundamentals. They allow you to learn the game, either because they have simple reference points or they have simple mechanics. And this means that your mental energy is then taken away from the champion. And that's going to teach you specific parts of the game, which is going to allow you to improve faster than, for example, the D tier champ. So let's start with number one, the golden boy of the
Mm.
lower ranks, Malzahar. Man, this champ is so honestly, this champ is
Yeah.
so unbelievably good. It's the perfect champion to improve upon the game. Why is that, AJ?
Yeah, so I mean, the reality is Malzahar has really clear reference points. His kit is extremely basic to play, point and clicks all across the board. There's very few skill shots, and again, the riff on what Tim was saying, it allows you to learn how to play a mid lane mage. No mobility, basic kit. So now you can learn. Okay, how do I farm? Right? How do I get to fights? How do I position? Right? So he just gives you everything you would want for a new player to kind of. He's like the training wheels champ, right? He just gives you everything you need to be able to learn the game as quickly as possible.
Absolutely. And the biggest thing about Malzar is that he has an auto CS function. So
Yeah.
all that mental energy, there's so many players that join our coaching program anew and they say, I don't know how to farm. It's fine. We'll get to that. It's going to take a bit of time. And with Malzar, this is your training wheels champion that's going to allow you to get towards bronze or silver without spending too much energy on focusing on these minions because Malzar auto pushes, auto farms, and it's going to allow you to learn what the game is actually about. What are these damn junglers doing everywhere,
Yeah.
and actually complement and play the game of League of Legends. Malzar is the best champion in the game to learn the game through. Next up,
Agreed.
we have 2 other really good champions for lower elos. We got Vigar, which is basically Malzahar 2.0, but then without CS assistance. Okay,
Yep.
my Vigar, the reason why he's so good is because he's an insane scaler, and lower elo games usually takes a little bit longer. Very effective to win the game through. Really simple reference points, very basic mechanical ability. That means that for Vigar as well, if you want to have a little bit of a higher mechanical ceiling comparatively towards Malzar and still learn the mid lane fundamentals, Vigar is your perfect fit. Now, why is Galio also in there? A lot of
Mm.
people may be wondering, ooh, Galio might be quite challenging. It's such a
Yeah.
unique champion. Explain.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, again, a lot of silver, iron, bronze, you got to learn the game, right? You got to learn the basics of the game. And a lot of the game comes down to fighting, right? League is a fighting game. And so what does Galio teach you how to do? Fight. He teaches you how to get in there, get messy, get dirty, just get your face into a fight and learn like what does damage, what doesn't deal damage, how do melee champions deal damage. So he's like the poster child for, okay, I want to learn how to play that melee style archetype. I want to learn how to get my damage off, even though I'm a melee champion. And again, similar to Malzahar, he's kind of got the auto push mechanic with his Q. You're really tanky, so you can make a ton of mistakes with your positioning while you're learning. And you got that R, you got that cheat code R to get to fights. You're just at a lot of fights as Galio, and it accelerates your ability to learn how to fight.
Absolutely. One thing that we identify is that lower elo games, they go longer. There's a
Yeah,
lot of random
a lot of
fights,
fights. Yeah.
just fighting. And we're going to need to learn how to fight, or we're going to need to be in a position where we can take number advantage fights. And all of these champions are good at creating that bunch of wave clear, ability to play around neutral objectives and take good quality fights. That's why these champs are the best champs to improve for lower elos.
Mm.
Now, Vigar and Malzahar are training wheels champs. Galio is not. Okay, so Galio is a little bit harder than these other guys, but if you decide to go on your Malzahar or Vigar journey, keep in mind that the moment you reach silver, I want you to take the training wheels off, especially Malzahar. We got to then go to the big boy leagues and really start learning how to actually farm and go to a next level. Now,
Yep.
we had a clear S tier and an S plus tier. These are just the best champs to improve upon if you're a new
Yep.
player or in the lower ranks. But we also got an A tier right here. And this is where we have a little bit more flexibility, but still insanely good champions for lower ranks. Let's start with Nafiri, because a lot of people may wonder, whoa, I thought Nafiri was hard too.
Mm.
Why is Nafiri on the list? And why is she our top dog for the A tier?
Yeah, so it's kind of similar to Gallia in a way, where Neferi is all about getting in there, right? Learning um, how to deal your damage, how to take damage, and you're an assassin, so picking when you go in is really really important. And for A tier, it's really about champions that are good for learning that archetype. So if you want to really become a good assassin player long term, Neferi is really really good, right? Clear reference points, get to your key spike, point and click abilities for the most part besides her Q, right? Great W to learn how to avoid taking damage, right? Learning how to side lane. So she kind of gives you a nice package for an assassin, and she's not too hard where you're like getting overwhelmed on how to actually pilot the champ like a Yone would be, for example.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of players coming into our coaching program and they say they're level 27. Today I had a guy coming in, level 27,
Mm.
and he says, I want to play Yasuo and I want to be diamond next year. And
Tall
when someone
task.
says it to me, sure thing, brother, let's see what we
Yeah.
can do. But it's just me then being honest to them. All right, we're not going to reach diamond in a year,
Mhm.
especially not on Yasuo. And then so if we don't do Yasuo, we're going to do Zed. I think Zed's cool. As a matter of fact, I'm even better on Zed. And then the truth is that we got to tell them, okay, these champs are just
Yep.
way too mechanical, way too hard, no reference points. It's impossible to improve on these champs,
Yep.
especially if you're in lower ranks because you don't fully understand the game just yet. So you want to view these assassins, the Echo, but also the Nafiri, both these champs that are in the A tier, you want to view them as stepping stones. That if
Mhm.
you want to eventually play these assassin-oriented champions later, start by learning the game through these champs. And the moment you get freakishly good at these champs, you'll start climbing, and then later down the line, we can make the switch to these champs that look a bit cooler. Now, we also have Lux. Lux is basically the easiest actual classic control mage
Yeah.
because of the fact that her E is just so fucking fat. It's so nice to
Mhm.
learn trading with Lux. She is really effective at picking off players. She has an insane amount of burst damage, and she has a pretty short cooldown on her ult, making her decently effective in lower ranks. Why else is Lux good, AJ?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to my mind is being able to learn the fundamentals of laning, right? Like she kind of teaches you how to get good resets because you have that get out of jail free card with her R, right? And you'll get punished lower elos for using it. So it'll teach you like, okay, I'm at a power spike, I have to reset. Let me R the wave, right? So it teaches you how to be on top of your resets. It teaches you how to play clean front to backs. It teaches you how to control chokes because of the E, right? And you can still be effective as a Lux because you're such high range and your R is so generous in terms of the cooldown that you can be really, really effective with your kit while feeling bad about again learning how to play a control mage, right? Like it's kind of training, not as much as like a Vigar or Mouse, but still training wheels E. You know what I mean? Like just
Yeah,
a little bit still there.
absolutely. And then we got another hot shot in here, which is Brand. I'm on fire with these puns, by the
Yeah,
way.
you are. You're going crazy with
I don't know what I
these.
drank today, but holy moly, we're hot with this. So Brand is also incredibly good because of the fact that he's got so much inbuilt damage.
Yep.
He deals so much damage in fights that he is just the guy that wins games. Brand is the guy that wins games in lower ranks because of his raw damage output. Now, Brand has some challenges. That's why he's not an S or an S plus tier because his laning can be a bit awkward. He
Mhm.
is just super squishy comparatively towards the other
Yeah.
guys. And he's a little bit more unique when it comes to farming with his
Yeah.
passive. That's why people sometimes struggle a little bit with him. But the moment you've got a little bit of experience on mages, like the Malzar or the Vigar, and then you try a brand, man,
It's gonna
he's
feel great.
damn effective.
Yeah.
Now, the final one we haven't covered yet is Swain. Elaborate. Why Swain?
Gonna be similar to Neferi and Galio. Again, it's the same style. learning how to fight, right? I'm a big fan of that, of these types of champions that teach you how to fight. And so
Yeah.
again, Swain forces you to number one, have good reference points with your R, because your champion is really weak without R. So you learn really good reference points, very clear reference points. Kit is pretty simple to understand and play. High wave clear eventually after a certain point. You can itemize, defensively or offensively depending on what you want. So you got a little bit of flexibility there, depending on how you want to learn. And yeah, like again, the biggest thing is he just teaches you how to get in there and get your damage off, which I really, really value. I think that's really, really important at this elo range.
Yeah, I love that. So all of these champs, they're definitely the best champions for beginners to
Yeah,
learn and improve on the game. Now, there's a subset of champs that are basically really good champions at teaching certain fundamentals,
yeah,
but they have some things
very
that just
specific.
barely don't make them like A or S tier.
Yeah,
So let's just take a few of these to begin with, right?
yep,
Ari. Ari is practically the jack of all trades of mid lane. It's the
yeah,
champ that teaches mid lane through pure fundamentals. She has this a small issue. She's a little bit on the harder side mechanically, right? She has clear reference points. You know what you want to do on this champion every single time in the game, but her game plan can sometimes be a bit tricky in the mid game. Plus, she has a bunch of skill shots, and that can sometimes make it hard for her to be executed. Now, that means that she's still decent. If you're an iron player, I would say Ari's maybe a little bit on the hard side. But if you're a bronze player and say, hey, I want to play Ari, I think sure thing. If you're willing to put in the repetitions, if you're willing to put
mhm,
in the work, learn how to land skill shots, we can make Ari work. Absolutely. Can be done. And that's
yeah.
because of her key reference points. Anything you want to add to this?
No, I think you're spot on. I mean, again, I would say the difficulty, the reason why like Ari is B tier is she's a champion that kind of needs to get close range to maximize her damage, but you're squishy, right? So the biggest comparison is that like Neferi, Echo, Galio, they all have tools that's very clear to a new player. How do you get your damage off and get out, right? Neferi W, Echo ults, Galio builds tank, right? Ari doesn't have that. It's more creative, right? And so that creativity can be very overwhelming for a new player. So that's why I think she's not higher up. I think once you kind of, as you get higher and higher and higher, like once you reach high bronze, maybe low silver, even high silver, she starts to climb and climb and climb because you're starting to get a little bit more comfortable with the game. You're starting to learn how to get your damage off a little bit better. You're intuiting her spells a little bit better, and then it just is you're chilling from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, then we're also going to talk about Victor. And I think we can put Mel in the same bucket
Yep,
here
put them
because
together.
Victor and Mel are very similar champions. And what we got here is we got the two classic mages that just teach mage fundamentals really
Hmm.
well. And I think Victor is actually the perfect champion. He is the poster boy of classic control mages.
Yep.
If you want to learn just raw mage fundamentals, Victor's your guy. Small win oriented
Hmm.
trading, front to back team fighting where you got to be controlling areas first. The reason why he's not S tier or S plus tier is his E can get a little bit tricky and he is pretty vulnerable. So a lot of players that want to learn this style struggle a little bit because this champion does not get away the moment it gets jumped on.
Yep.
Besides that, he's really good. Why is Mel also so good, AJ?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much parallel to Victor, right? She has clean front to back fights. You kind of learn trading windows in lane. Since you're vulnerable and squishy, it kind of does teach you, how to have good positioning and understand when you're under threat. And also, the reflect is a very unique ability for learning the game, actually, because it teaches you what skill shots are important and not, right? Because you'll get punished if you use it at the wrong time. Right. And I
Yep.
think the biggest problem with Victor and Mel that I've seen personally from coaching sessions is that because they're such classical control mages, for newer players, it can feel like it's hard to have impact because if you don't have good fundamentals in your lane, if you're scared of literally everything because you don't know what skill shot, what other champions do, you're just going to play really far back and it's going to be really, really hard to actually deal damage and you're going to feel like you're useless. So that's why they're B tier and not higher tier compared to Lux because Lux has that longer range and more bursty damage so, like it's a little easier for her to get her damage off, especially if you're playing defensively.
Yep, absolutely. Now, I also want to talk about Vex. And Vex is somewhat similar than Ari, right?
Yep.
Vex is also a champion that teaches skirmishing really well. There's just a few differences that I want to mention, okay? Vex is just less good at winning the game, okay? She's simpler, and therefore her skill shots are a lot easier to land, and therefore she's should actually be a little bit higher. But the fact that she's just not that good at winning the game makes her a little bit lower, and that's what we also
Mm,
put her in B tier. The reason why that's the case is because Vex has flat AP numbers, minimal scaling, and she really struggles dealing with tanks, like really
Yep.
struggles dealing with tanks. And
Yep.
games in lower elo go long, and it means that
There's a lot of
Vex
tanks.
isn't always going to be the most successful champion at winning, but at teaching the game fundamentals, teaching how to shove and move, teaching
Mm.
how to trade in lane, teaching how to fight. She's really good. Winning games can sometimes be tricky. I remember we had a guy in the MLA, Boke, and this guy would come up to me and would send his OPGG, and he had like 24 kills on a Vex game in bronze, right? And then we looked at it, and that he just couldn't end the game. He didn't understand how to end the game, and he was like killing people left and right, but he couldn't end, and therefore he wasn't losing. And then eventually, I think we were like, yeah, maybe it's just like you understand how to get ahead, but you can't win the game because your
Mm.
champ skills off, and you don't know how to understand how to win the game. So
Yeah.
either we need to change champ, or we need to start learning how to win the game. I
Yeah.
think we did both in the end.
Right. A lot of work though.
Yep.
And and honestly, I kind of want to pair. Looking at this list, I want to pair Liz with Vex in that case.
Yes.
I think Liz is very similar. She's has very flat numbers. Ratios are completely terrible. Decent lane, so you do learn some good laning things. Again, you learn how to get your damage off, kind of like a Vex. But like again, they like all three of these that bucket right there, that Vex or a Liz bucket, struggle against tanks, bad scaling, um, and hard to close out games. Right. So I think
Yes.
Liz is
Yep.
very similar to Vex in that regard.
Now we're gonna go completely 180 here.
Yep.
All right. We got a champion that is a killer at winning lower elo games. If you want to win games, pick Asol. All right.
Yeah.
The only problem with Asol is that mechanically he's a bit harder. So he's like a little bit harder mechanically. His W, trading, his early lane can be super unintuitive. It's gonna take you quite a bit of repetitions to get used to it. But the moment you get there, and with the fact that games go long on this champion, you get big Stardust, you can indefinitely clear wave. And like I said, players in lower elos don't know how to end games. So with you just putting your E down onto the minions and they don't know what to do against it, you're going to be in a position where you can indefinitely stall out and win the game on this champion. So very effective at winning game. It's just a little bit less good at teaching the fundamentals. Hence is why he's not A tier, but B tier. Now, next up, we got a bucket of
This bucket.
assassins here.
Yeah.
This is one bucket. Why are these assassins B tier and we got the champs like Z
Yeah.
in D tier?
Mm. Yeah, so I think let's compare both up and down. So why are they B compared to Nefaria A and
Yep,
Echo at A? So I think
like
these
that.
champions have less intuitive backline access, right? Like Fizz actually is a little awkward to get right on enemy backline, right? Usually their laning phase is a little bit more awkward. Like take a look at Cassidon. He has a really awkward laning phase, very niche laning phase compared to something like Echo and Neferi. Or even comparing Diana. Like Diana is like weird because she has AoE in her kit, even though she's an assassin, right? So these
She only
champions
goes
have
in as well. She can't go
yeah, she
out.
only goes in exactly. So all these champions have something about their kit that's a little unintuitive or awkward to understand when you're playing an assassin. So you need to get over that hoop first before you can start to learn the game, right? And the reason why they're higher than something like Zed is that they still have clear reference points, right? They still have pretty basic kit in terms of just like understanding how to deal damage in your kit, right? The kit's still basic to understand, and they're still very effective even when you don't really understand the other parts about the game, right? If you play Fizz, and as long as you can learn how to flank, then you're going to be having a good time, right? But if you play Zed and you flank, you can still miss everything and not secure a kill, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's why these guys are B tier.
Yeah, absolutely. And for example, Custard, a lot of people might be wondering, yo, Custard is pretty hard, right? With the laning so unique.
Mm,
Yeah, he does teach a really unique style of laning, but that is also in a way a bit of a reference point, right? He just does the exact same thing every single lane. Therefore, he has a little bit more consistency. And the games go long, right? You can get into positions where you can get a side lane, get monstrously fat. You could start flanking from the side. You'll just win some games, right? He is not ideal. That's why you're not in A tier, but he can be made work of just like these other champs. That's why he's in B tier. Now, we got a few more champs lined up in C tier, and we really got to understand that these champions they got some problems in their kit, okay? And one of these problems are that they're either a little bit too hard, but or they don't really teach perfect fundamentals all the time, or
yeah,
they don't fight all that well. So if we look at, for example, the first pair of mages here, right? We can all
yeah.
put them in the same bucket. Actually, I think we should shift them a little
Divide them
bit.
in half. Yeah,
The vitamin health here. So we got the
yep.
Zinra Oriana bucket, which these champions teach such sexy fundamentals,
Really
like
good fundamentals.
amazing champs at learning the game.
Too hard.
Too hard. skill shots everywhere, right? Ball control. It's really hard to keep track.
Threat
Where's my ball in
assessment.
a team fight?
Yeah.
Threat assessment. So these champs are just a little bit too hard to be called good for a beginner. But
Yep.
I'd rather have you play these champs than LeBlanc. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Now, Ziggs and Nivea. Walk me through these here, AJ.
Yeah, they're and the other, riffing off what you were saying, they're too like specific. Like their skills are too much in a specific direction, right? Like Ziggs is not going to teach you how to manage waves properly. He's not going to teach you how to side lane. He's not going to teach you a threat assessment because you can just default to just sit like six screens away and just throw your Q and R and that's all you do and you're still going to win games with Ziggs, which is good for climbing, but it's not good for learning the game, right? You're going to
Yeah.
be missing a lot of those fundamentals. And
Hmm.
kind of same thing with Anivia, right? Just in a different vein, right? Anivia, just after level 6, you just skip every single wave with your R. Your W is really unique. No other champion has a W like that, which is, can be a little awkward for learning fundamentals. And again, she can't side lane, and she's really bad at fighting as well. Which
Yep.
and those lower elos, fighting is really, really, really important. And both these champions kind of struggle at fighting, especially early on into the game.
Yeah, exactly. Now we also have Pantin at the last here, right? Pantin
Hmm.
is the opposite, right? He's pretty challenging mechanically, but
Yep,
he's damn good at fighting. He'll right click the
really good
hell
at
out of
fighting.
you.
Exactly. Yeah, he'll teach you how to fight for sure.
Exactly. So compare him a little bit to these like assassins right here, but then a little bit harder and a little bit less clear reference points, putting
Yep,
him in C tier rather than B tier.
yep,
Now, I know that we killed a lot of players their dreams here in this
yep.
D tier. There's players crying out loud right now, knowing that their Yasuo or their Zed or their LeBlanc is
Azir.
or Azir, right, is in the D tier and a champ that we don't recommend to improve. Now, we're gonna just take this really high level, okay?
Yep,
There's a few categories of why these champions are bad to learn the game on as a beginner. Number one, it's micro execution, mechanical floor is too high. Number
yep,
two is that there's no clear reference points, so the macro floor is too high.
yep,
It's impossible to understand what you're actually doing. Too many options. Another reason is that they teach the fundamentals in such a unique way that they are just not even worth considering, like a Vladimir, right?
yep.
Just skips threat assessment, skips trading, skips wave management, just a complete shit show. Same as like Karma, right? So they don't teach fundamentals well. Are there any others that stand out to you? Like unique champs from like ADs?
No, not at all. I think I just to combine these all to one good word. The best I can say, these are like the gaslight champions. So what I mean by that is, it's really hard for a newer player to play up on these champs and figure out what is the reason why I'm losing. Right? They gaslight themselves because you could be playing Azir and your reference points could be completely like destroyed, and you're thinking, "Oh man, my fighting is just bad compared to other bronze player," and then you're just completely screwed because now you're playing a hard champ, you're learning the wrong way, and you know what I mean. It just becomes like a complete shit show. So like these champions are really good at gaslighting you into either learning the wrong things, like you said with the Vlad, the fundamentals are really scuffed on Vlad, or you're learning something that you even shouldn't be learning about, right? Like imagine a Zed player. Right? Let's go back to the Zed analogy. Imagine a Zed player. He flanks, so that's a good reference point, but he misses everything, right? What's the takeaway going to be for a bronze player when that happens, right? He's going to be completely overwhelmed reviewing that, right? Or trying to figure out how to improve on these champions.
Yeah.
So that's my take in terms of this tier. These are just champions that have too many things going on that you can't focus on actually learning the game.
Yep, absolutely. So we're going to give a few examples here of these champions. Wei, mainly mechanical problems.
Yep.
He has pretty clear reference points, pretty
Yep.
decent fundamentals, but as a newer player, like Iron or Bronze player, all these abilities are too complicated.
Yep.
Jace has all of the issues, like we mentioned.
All of
Jace
them.
is like the bottom D tier champ if you want to improve.
Yep.
Cassio, micro execution is
Micro.
brutally hard. LeBlanc, micro plus macro. And therefore, she teaches the fundamentals in a really unique way.
Yep.
Macro, mainly on Talia. W can be unintuitive, so not thrown off. Aurora is just brutally hard when it comes to landing your skill shots
Yep.
and has infinite options in the mid game. Zverev has a lot of skill shots. You could make an argument that Zverev could maybe be next to Ziggs on C
Mm.
tier. Sure thing, but I'd rather have you play Ziggs than Zverev because Ziggs has a little bit of the self peel with the W and therefore is a little bit more effective.
Yep.
Twisted Fate, too many complex
Yeah. Macro too
macro.
complex.
Rise, micro, macro,
Yep.
impossible for a newer player. Now,
Yep.
this is a sad one, okay? I want to talk a little bit more about any because a lot of people may run, yo, Tim, why is any not on the list here? Why is any in the D tier? Because there used to be this time where LS would say to a lot of players, if you're in lower ranks, pick any, you'll just win games. Now, there's been a few of these players that joined our coaching program. They say, I'm an any OTP
They
because I
struggle.
got told that any was a good champion to play if I would be lower ranks. And it's actually sad to see for these players because they've invested 800 games on any. They're full OTP and they're hard stuck, like
Yep.
dead hard stuck 50% win rate.
Yep.
And then what we see when we review these games is that they don't know specific parts of the game. They don't understand how to use their trading threat to get
Yep.
priority in the lane. They don't understand how to use their increased out attack range to put pressure onto the enemy laner. They just get pushed in the fight by the fucking Malzahar. They lose control of the game, and the game just explodes, and there is no counterplay.
Yeah.
And they try to roam. They sack all these waves. They're going with 4 CS per minute around the map, and they can't win. And then I tell them, like, the problem, the reason why you're not climbing is because you don't understand certain fundamentals about the game because you picked Annie. She falls into a bit of the bucket with Vladimir. Her R is not translatable to any other mid laner. Her E is really unique. Her wave clear is almost not translatable. Her passive is not translatable. So I tell them the only way that you're going to get out of this is by learning a new style of fundamentals. And we got to just rip the band-aid off and just start playing new champs. And it takes them 8 months to climb. 8 months of practicing multiple different champions, multiple different styles. But once they do, they're like, why did I ever play any? They always told me, I'm so mad at myself that I went on this any journey. And yeah, it's just a sad thing. I feel for them. I feel for them. I'm not sure how you experienced that.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. The only thing I would add is like I think the reason why this is the case that people don't realize this is happening is because Annie's actually really unintuitive, which sounds kind of paradoxical. But like you were saying, like she's a mage with 600 auto range. That is like really unintuitive, right? That makes literally no sense, right? Because she's a season 1 champ. Her R is really unintuitive to control. Her E is really unintuitive, right? You want to walk up and purposely take damage so your E can reflect damage back for Scorch and and comment and stuff. It's just too unintuitive for her to actually be good at improving the game on because you're going to learn the wrong things, like you were saying, right? You're going to learn the wrong fundamentals. You're not going to learn how to trade and get pushed in, and it's just going to be completely miserable.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think she perfectly encapsulates the gaslight tier that these D tier champions are. That gaslight you into learning the wrong things.
Yeah, it's horrible. I've
Yeah,
seen some bad shit.
yeah,
Now, Azir, right? Micro, macro, everything, just too hard. Down there with Jace on the bottom of low D tier. Velkos has pretty clear reference points, but damn, he's hard. My god, he is hard
yep.
to land the spells on. Yone, tell us, AJ.
I don't even want to get started. I'll just keep it short. I mean,
Yeah.
micro is way too complicated. I even see like diamond players who struggle with micro. Macro, too many options, infinite options. You can learn the wrong things with Yone. He gaslights you. Fundamentals are completely different compared to every other champ. This is like bottom 5 worst champ in the game, I think, to learn the game
Yeah.
on.
Vladimir, he has simple micro, simple macro, but he teaches the fundamentals so
Reference
whack
points. Yeah.
that he can't be
Fundamentals are
played.
whack. Yeah.
Exactly.
Same with Talon, honestly.
Talent, too hard as well.
Yeah.
Karma, rough fundamentals. Katarina, really unique, teaches the fundamentals in a really unique way, and
Yeah.
is brutally hard micro and macro. Aurelia has actually a little bit more clear reference points. That's why she also doesn't have the worst win rate in lower elos. Aurelia actually has a decent win rate. She is just really mechanically demanding. Yasuo
Yeah.
is a bit in the same bucket here.
Similar.
You know, I would say that these guys aren't bottom of D tier. I would say they're top of D tier, but still D tier.
Yep.
And all the other Corki, too
Fuck
unique.
at all of these, like the Zed,
Yeah,
Viego, Silas, Akali, Kiana, like this Tristana, that entire like Akshan, that entire group right there, all similar. Too hard to execute micro-wise. Fighting is too complicated. They have very niche parts about their kit. You're playing melee champions or champions that have to get in range, even though you're playing Corki and Trist. So way too unintuitive to learn these champs.
absolutely. Yeah, so if you guys have any questions about this lower elo tier list, let us know down below in the comments, and we'll be moving on to the next tier list just now. So we're moving on to silver, gold, and platinum tier. This is what we call like medium elo, and what we find is that if we compare this to the previous tier list, there's already way more options that we can go for in these type of champions. We got some extra tiers, and we're going to be breaking them down step by step. We're going to be starting off with the poster boys of fundamentals. Aloys and L, where you at? Because these type of champions, they're so sexy at teaching them. We got Victor, classic mage fundamentals. Ari, classic skirmish-oriented mage
Mhm.
fundamentals. And Galio, classic melee skirmish-oriented mage fundamentals. Let's just break down why these champions are the top of their
Mhm.
class at teaching the game fundamentals. And we're going to start with Victor. I'll take it away. Victor is the mage to learn the mage fundamentals on if you're in these ranks because of these reasons. Number one is micro is pretty straightforward. It's not super easy, like that is brain dead. It's just straightforward and it teaches you trading so unbelievably well. It's the best small win trader to learn the game through. Matter of fact, the mage that got me into mages was Victor. I learned mages through this champion. Before that, I couldn't play a single
Mine
mage.
too.
A few as well?
Yeah, I used to be a Yasuo and a Victor 2 trick, so those are the two
Awesome.
champs I learned.
That's so cool, right? Because
Yeah.
Victor is so good at like just teaching front to
Yep.
back team fighting, being first at neutral objectives,
Yep.
landing your damn spells in the lane, cooldown trading. Victor is the
Mhm.
best at doing that without his mechanical floor being too high. If you compare this to Orianna and Syndra, who have similar capabilities, Victor is slightly better because of his mechanical execution being slightly easier. But if you compare it to the likes of Malzar or Vigar, right, those are too easy at this rank. You want to get
Yeah.
challenged, so you get into the flow state, but you don't want to be too easy or too hard.
Mhm.
Now, Ari, why is Ari like we already talked about it a little bit in
Yep.
the previous tier list, but let's reiterate for the guys that haven't seen that just yet. Why is Ari over here, AJ?
Yeah, so the first thing I want to say is that getting from silver to plat, like this medium elo range and onwards, is about absolute mastery of your reference points. And guess what? Ari teaches you really, really, really well. Mastering your reference points. Are you fighting with your R? Are you getting to your lost chapter level 7 wave clear breakpoint? Are you pushing the wave once you hit level 7? Right? Are you understanding if you need to come from a front to back or from a flank? Are you holding your charm for major fights? So she teaches you how to be perfect with your reference points, right? That she leaves you no room for anything else. So she's really, really good at doing that. Her fighting is challenging, but intuitive, right? Is I guess the best way to describe it. You can intuitively learn where you fucked up. Oh, I should have held my charm here. I should have R'd here for the reset. I should have held my R, yada yada yada. So she gives you a really, really like she challenges you, but then it's also easy to learn off of your mistakes from Ari. And she also teaches, okay, lane fundamentals. And like, we were talking about in the previous tier, like she's a jack of all trades. So she kind of gives you a little bit of everything. So and especially at this, gold, plat, elo range, you're starting to get to the point where you can really take specific things and hyper focus on them, even if you're playing a little bit more of a complex champion.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the way that you put that there. Climbing from silver through gold through plat is about mastering what you want to do and playing
Yes.
your champion to a high level. And then you
Yes.
can get to emerald. And then we're, of course, playing a different game again.
Yes.
But if you can do that really well, you're going to succeed. And these champions are reference points bricks.
Yes.
They're the fundamentals of the reference points. Now,
Yep.
Galio, right, an insanely good fighter. It teaches you how to take damage. It teaches you how to trade. It teaches you how to play wave states really well. Shove and moving is going to be a big part of the game, and Galio is really good at teaching that. Insanely
Yeah.
good skirmisher, hence why he's S plus tier. Anything you want to add to this one?
Nope. Perfect.
Perfect. So we're now just looking at a different class of champions right here that are just slightly worse than these, but still do an incredibly good job. If you're a silver, gold, or platinum player, any of these champions listed in the S plus or A tier are great champs for you to
Mhm.
start learning and improving on. You can't go wrong with any of these champs. Now, let's do the first bucket of
Yep.
Zindra, Ori, Mel. And we're going to do it bucket wise so that you guys understand because these champs do the exact same thing, otherwise
Similar.
we're going to be
Yeah.
repeating ourselves. Now,
Yep.
Syndra or Mel, fantastic learning of small win oriented trading, mage fundamentals, understanding your reference points. These champs do it incredibly well. The comparison to Victor is that they're not S tiers because their mechanical floor
Just
is a
harder.
little bit harder.
Yep.
Anything else you want to add to these?
No, I think you're spot on. I mean, that's the only reason why Victor is so much better than these because Victor, the trading window with the E is very simple. Q's point and click. He's got baked in self peel. These champs are just missing one or a combination of some of these things that makes it a little bit more difficult to navigate these champions. But they're still great because again, it's about mastering your reference points, and these champs are great for that. They're classic control mages.
Love that. So we're now moving on to the A tier assassins.
Yep.
And those are not in S tier. We don't have a classic assassin in S tier. And there's a reason why that's the case, is because assassins' reference points are a little bit wishy-washy.
Yeah.
They utilize the sideline a little bit more. You have a little bit more options in the mid game. Hence is why these champs are not the absolute pinnacle of learning the game through. But if you want to learn assassins, these champs will still do the absolute best for you. Very clear reference points, really good fighting, and very streamlined gameplay. Anything you want to add to these?
No, I think you're spot on. Just the nature of playing a melee champion is just going to be more difficult in mid lane, right? Mid lane is known for the range mage type. That's how the game has been built, especially at this elo range. So yeah, exactly like you said, it's just a little bit awkward to kind of navigate mid games with these champions, and the reference points can take a little bit to get used to for sure.
Absolutely. So the next bucket that we got is the skirmisher bucket right here. We got Vex, who's a really good skirmisher. You want to start looking to play with your jungle. Same as Lisandra, want to start looking to play with your jungle. It's going to teach you shove and moving. It's going to teach you decent quality trading. It's going to teach you basic mid-game fundamentals and really good fighting. Swain, also somewhat in a similar bucket, really good with his ult of teaching you how to fight. And this champion is the definition of reference points.
Yeah.
Right. This champ is so good at just playing with your ult. It's the
Mhm.
strongest champ in the game. But if you play without your ultimate, you're the weakest champion in the game.
Yeah.
And you're gonna get punished for that if you don't listen to that. So this champion drills consistency in your brain. And that's why this champion is so incredibly good to play. Now, why is he not S tier? Well, he's got some weaknesses, right? His trading is a little bit He doesn't perfectly teach like mid-game side laning all that
Yeah.
well. It's pretty unique how he approaches that, and that's why he's just barely not as good as these three top here. Now, Asol. Asol is really good. Why is Asol so unbelievably good here in A tier?
Yeah, because I mean, again, I think ASOL really teaches you how to be strong, right? As a key reference point to mage. How do you keep yourself alive? How do you stall games? How do you contest the right objectives, right? How do you get clean team fighting, right? So ASOL, now that you're kind of in this elo range, your mechanical ability on ASOL has gone up compared to in bronze. So you have more capacity to use good quality W's, right? Get your far stacks with your E. Actually get to that mid game break point where you can start to take over games. And so yeah, ASOL kind of teaches you, a lot of good reference points for holistically playing mid lane, right? How do my pings look? Am I thinking about what objectives I want to play for? And I think even pairing that with Vigar, I think the reason why Vigar is right next to ASOL is the same exact reasons, right? You're at the point now where you can probably consistently get decently strong on Vigar. So it's all about, okay, how do I win a game now? How do I win a game as a mage, right? And these champions really teach you how to do that well.
Yeah, absolutely. There's this reason why Vigar is not paired with the other mages, is because Vigar, reference points wise, is really good, but instead of mechanically being too hard or a little bit on the harder side, he's actually a little bit on the easy side.
Yeah.
So we would like you to be slightly more challenged with a Victor, for
Hmm.
example, but Vigar
Yeah.
will just do fine. He's just a little bit on the easier side, a little bit on the training wheel side, but not as much as the Malzar, who we see that we tanked completely to C tier. Now, let's go move on to B tier. Wei. Let's start with Wei. Wei is a bit isolated one here.
Hmm.
Wei is just a tier below the other mages. And that fucking sucks for Wei players. But the truth is, Riot has a big ass bounty on this champion for some reason. It keeps getting nerfed and nerfed and nerfed and just kept weak for some reason. Plus, this champion is just mechanically, the floor is a little bit higher.
Hmm.
Not necessarily that Wei is harder per se than Syndra or Orianna. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the floor is higher. So your barrier of entry, because he's got 10 different abilities, is just a little bit less intuitive compared to what's the other champions. That's why we put him in B tier instead of in A tier.
Love it.
Now, Talia Twisted Fate. Take it away, AJ. We've not
Yeah.
really seen these before.
Yeah. So look, the reality with these champions is they have pretty good reference points, right? They're both push and move, push and move, push and move, get with your team. The reason why they're not higher on the list is that they don't teach some things very well. Like you can get away with Talia and Twisted Fate not learning how to trade at all, to be honest with you, at this healer range. You can pretty much never trade one time in your lanes and probably climb with these champions. So I really don't like that you pretty much bypass the lane fundamentals, right? You switch to a different champ. Let's say you get to like low emeralds or even plat one with one of these champs. You're like, you know what? I want to learn Ori now. She's like a mage like Talia. You're gonna get completely annihilated in lane. You're gonna be like, man, what the hell am I doing? right? So that's why not the biggest, they're not higher, but then they do teach other things really, really well, right? They teach you how do you play with your jungler, how do I get priority at the right time, right? How do I play for a side win and play for a win con. So they kind of got this like really good in one area, really bad in one area, and that fusion puts them in B tier for me.
Yep. There's also one more thing to note is that these champions have pretty challenging macro complexity,
Okay.
right? These champs have options, like options. You need to be fast on tempo, fast on forcing enemies to respond to waves, creating number advantages. And the amount of tempo to really make use of these kits is quite high level. And you have a little bit ease on the RE, which skirmishing is just a little bit more forgiving. If you don't create a number advantage on RE, you're going to be fucking useful in these fights anyway.
Yeah.
If you don't create a number advantage on Twisted Fate, good luck front backing with gold cards, right, and
Yeah.
stunning the fucking Ornn.
Yeah, right. All the tanks running around in the zero range.
Good luck stunning the Ornn, brother. Right, so that's why this champ is a little bit harder. Now, Pantheon is in a very similar bucket, right? He's really good at fighting. There's still a lot of fighting fundamentals that we're going to be teaching, but Pantheon as well, right? A lot of options in the mid game. His ult is a bit like Talia and the Twisted Fate ult. He needs to get up close and personal, and it can sometimes be a little bit non-intuitive, but still he's quite decent at these ranks.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Agreed.
Diana, Fizz, right? Like we had before, they're in a very similar tier. These champs just do their job, all right? They're a little bit gimmicky. They got a little bit of a downside, but they do their job well, and the reference points are quite clear. But because of that small downside, they're just not barely on the Nefiri and on the Echo tier above them. But if you want to play these champs while you're silver gold and you're dedicated to making them work, absolutely, you will be able to do that. Now, C tier. C tier is going to be quite interesting. We got a few different sections, two different blocks here in C tier. We got the block on the left and a block on the right. Now, I'll kick it off with the block on the right, then you can continue with the block on the left.
Sure.
We found that the block on the right was quite good in the beginner tier. But right now, it's not that good in the beginner tier anymore. Why? Because these are the training wheels champions. We're now getting to the real leagues, guys. We're getting to the top 50% of the player base. It's time to turn and take off your training wheels, boys. We need to start learning the real mages right now. So if you're playing one of these champs, you're currently skipping fundamentals if you're, for example, playing Malzar, or you're not playing optimal champs when it comes to the effectivity at winning games, like the Lux and the Brand. I'd much rather have you play any of the other mages, challenge yourself a little bit more, and then have a little bit more reference points and the ability to contest the lane a little bit better with these type of champions. It doesn't mean that these champs can't work. It would just be my preference for you to be put on a Victor or an Ori or a Zinra or a Mel.
Love it.
Now, what about the left point here?
Yeah, so these champs are similar for different reasons. Similar to the other group, just for different reasons, right? It's not that they're easy, but they're so one-dimensional in terms of what they're trying to do, right? Like think about what Anivia wants to do. The only thing Anivia is good at doing is getting push and controlling an area. If you do not do that as an Anivia, you are not going to have a good time, right? You're going to have an absolutely miserable time. So that's gonna, like, for example, make your. I mean, yeah, you have clear reference points, but you're learning such a niche part of the game, a very small subsection of the game. Where I'd prefer you to play something like, a Victor, and Victor can control areas while play laning fundamentals, right? While side laning, yada yada. Yada. And same thing with Ziggs and Zerath, right? Ziggs and Zerath, they're really good at playing at max range, playing artillery, playing pre-setup, right? But that's all they're good at doing. Right, you're not going to see Zig side laning and gold and knowing how to min-max their side lane. You're never going to learn that skill. And so, again, the same thing. I'd rather you learn a Ori or a Syndra and challenge yourself a little bit more and have a little bit more well-rounded of a champion. Because, yes, even though these champions are challenging Zig, Zerath, and Nivea, and they're effective in very specific ways that aren't amazing for learning mid lane as a whole.
Love that. So, we now have an OTP tier, and we did not have that in the beginner tier list for Iron and Bronze. The reason is, the moment you get to these leagues, and I would especially mention, there's two things to mention before we go into the actual champion specifics. This is mainly recommended from gold. So in silver, I still don't recommend these champs. But the moment you get to gold, you're getting pretty damn good at the game. So if you're gold and you're listening to this, you're like, I'm pretty good right now. Yes, you are. Right? So don't feel bad about yourself. If gold, you're getting pretty damn good at the game right now.
Yep.
So that means that we can play some champs that are a little bit more challenging. And the main challenging factor of these champs is their mechanical floor is quite high. This is going to take a bunch of repetitions, but if you're fucking dedicated to these champs, you can make it work. That's the first thing I want to mention. Gold plus mechanical prowess right here, which means that we're going to need to OTP because otherwise we're not going to have the champion mastery required as a baseline level to break through these ranks. Now, the second thing I'm going to need to talk about is this big green wall that we're going to hit the moment we're going to get to Emerald. There's the Emerald wall, and you're going to find it because we see this in our coaching program
All the
on a
time.
daily basis.
Yep.
There's players on these hard champions trying to break through Platinum, and they get stuck at Plat 2, Plat 1, and they can't break through. Why? Because in Emerald, it's more than just being able to play your champion. We're going to need to start playing the game of League of Legends. And that can become quite hard if you try to learn it through such a challenging champion of these champs. You have to keep in mind that if you're going to be playing these champs, you're probably going to win because of you being mechanically better than your laner, because of the amount of raw repetitions you're going to play on these champs. And then when you're going to play in Emerald, you need to start playing the game of League of Legends. And that's quite unintuitive for a lot of these players. I just did a recent Katarina review with a guy that's Plat 1, and he just had no idea that fighting 2 versus 4 might just be a bad idea.
Yeah.
Right?
That's very normal. It happens all the time. Happens all the time with these champs.
And he told me, yeah, but if I landed that dagger, I could have won the fight. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, but
It's a very warped lens, these champions, which is why you need to OTP them.
you're right. If you land the dagger, you could have won the fight, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's his best way of going about it. So these champs, right? You can make it work with raw repetitions and be prepared for the Emerald Wall. Okay. But now let's figure out why these champs are better than the champs that in D tier. So why is Azir not in here? Why is Yone not in here? Why is LeBlanc in here? And we're really going to need to talk not only about micro execution, because all of these champs have really challenging micro execution, but their reference points are a lot clearer than the other ones in D tier.
Yes.
Let's talk about Ryze, Jace, and Azir and Yone for a second. AJ, take it away. What is wrong with these champs?
Yeah, so again, right, to compare to the OTP tier, like Tim was saying, the biggest difference or like the added difficulty you have is that macro high level reference points are just completely cooked on this group of champions. It's Zoe, LeBlanc, Silas, Yone, Azir, this group that Tim is making, this bucket here. These champions have too much going on. Right, and one game, like I did a review with like he's Emerald, not even Plat. So I'm talking about Emerald Yone. He's new to Yone, right? One VOD, we looked at like 4 or 5 VODs over the course of like the last maybe 6 or 7 weeks. One VOD, he has no idea how to play War of Attrition, right? So boom, game's already lost because he doesn't know how to play the War of Attrition. That's reference points, right? Second game, he has no idea how to play trades against Talia. Boom, micro execution, lost the game. Third game, he has no idea how to play the side lane. Boom, game's lost because he doesn't know reference points in the side lane. So what happens is that the number of things you need to focus on start to exponentially multiply with each other in these D tier champions, right? There's too much happening. You have like literally infinite possibilities in any particular game. The reference points are very vague. And you just become completely overwhelmed. And then, like, I feel bad for these guys. Like, I go to review with them. I'm like, okay, the reality is it's going to be overwhelming. And I try to dumb it down, and it's still too overwhelming, right? And that is just the reality of these champions. And the Emerald Wall, like we were talking about Emerald OTP tier, the Emerald Wall for these D tier champs is like literally like an Emerald Wall made out of titanium. You know, like you're not breaking that. that is not moving for a long, long, long time.
Yeah. You see Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah.
Yeah, when they go to the Earth Nation or something like that, you had that city with that big ass wall.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
that's the wall
what
that
it
we're talking
is.
about
Yeah.
here. So there's a few champs that have like maybe more clear reference points, like
Yeah.
the Annie, like the Vladimir, like these guys, like the Trist and the Corki. But
Yeah.
their fundamental teaching is just not worth getting into. So
Yeah.
these champs could theoretically work, and it can work, but we just don't recommend them because of how poor their fundamental how poor their fundamentals translate towards all of the other mid lane champs. They're just so unique.
Yep.
Now, anything you want to add to this beautiful little tier list that we got here, AJ?
No, I think we did a great job with this one. I'm really happy with this.
Fantastic. So we're moving on to the final Emerald plus tier list. This is going to cover Emerald, Diamond, Master, Grandmaster, and Challenger. So we're going to rate these champions based on how good they are at improving in the game. We are going to be rating their effectiveness at winning games in these ranks, the meta volatility, because meta is going to start to matter in Emerald Plus a little bit more. So how good are these champs at adapting to meta? How consistently are they on top? Champions like Azir or Yone would be great, but they're just too inconsistent. We got the fundamentals. How good are they at teaching you the game fundamentals and learning the game through the lens of this champion? And how transferable are the skills that you're going to be learning on said champion towards other champions? Now, let's start with the best champion by far, by a long shot, of learning, improving, and climbing in League of Legends is Syndra. And you guys all know that I'm a big Syndra guy. I'm a Syndra main. And this is not a sales pitch. This is just raw data because I got a Syndra hater right here together with me
Yeah,
in the
you
chat.
got me, guys. The counterbalance. Don't worry.
So why is Syndra so unbelievably good? Let's start off by just her meta read over the past year. The past year, she has been in the highest tier of all the champions, starting from the start of the season to the end of the season. Why? She's always been strong. Yes, she's got some changes. She's always kept doing her job. Her lane is decent. She's good all across the game. She has insane scaling. Her E is the most bullshit ability in the game in solo queue, all the way up until low challenger. You will catch people off guard with this spell, allowing her to not only teach the game fundamentals properly as a control mage, be effective at winning games, being good at meta, have transferable skills to a bunch of these other champs. She can shove and move, she can look for picks, she can assassinate, she can play front to back control mage team fights. This champion is the champion, guys. If you're unsure what to play, if you're an ML Plus and you want to make waves for next season, lock it in. Anything you want to add to this beauty of a champion?
No, I mean, I think you hit everything. She basically provides everything you would want for a mid laner and for solo queue, right? Guys, just to preface this, this is for a lot of ranks, right? To be fair, like Emerald to Challenger is a bigger difference from Iron to Diamond, right? In terms of skill levels. So it's hard for us to encapsulate everything. But for the average player in this elo range from Emerald to Challenger, Syndra is going to give you the most results. And the reality is that's just a fact because she's got the scaling X factor. The trading windows are insane in lane, right? Reference points are pretty clear. Itemization is flexible, right? Front to back is good. Like you said, the fog wars good. I could just keep going on and on and on.
Yeah,
And
it's
basically at this
unbelievable.
point, yeah, I'm just there's more good things to say about her than bad things by a lot, right? The ratio is like 100 to 1, right?
Yeah,
Um, and so yeah, the reality is, unless you're a low challenger player, and if you are, you probably don't need our tier list anyway. You should be playing Syndra, right? You just should. She's the
yeah.
best control mage for learning the game and very very effective.
Absolutely. And we've also seen it in our coaching program. Like the results on this champion has been every week. I see someone, a Zindra player in the coaching program, tagging us the fact that they've improved to a new rank. It's unbelievable. Now, we've glazed Zindra enough. We're going to now move on to the evergreen champs. So these are champs that, regardless of the meta, with whatever is going on, will just do such an incredible job at allowing you to improve, learn the game fundamentals, and also climb with. So we're going to bucket these champions up. We got Oriana and Victor together as one bucket. We got Galio, Ari, and Talia as a bucket. And we got Zoe, Akshan, and Akali as one bucket. And we're going to identify why these champs are good in their own respective way. We're going to start off with Oriana and Victor, who, just as Zindra, are just so clean at teaching the mid lane fundamentals. They will teach you how to trade. They will teach you classic laning. They will teach you mid game in a very sexy manner, front to back team fighting, skirmishing. It's just really clean, and the skills are transferable to many other champions here in
Yeah,
this list. They have one downside, and the downside of these champions is that they are a little bit less flexible than the Syndra. They can't look for these picks across the map on a
yeah.
short cooldown. They have a little bit less self heal than the Syndra has in respects. That's why they're a little bit lower, but still fantastic tier. What do you think about these champs?
Yeah, what I would say is that their strengths are harder to use than Syndra's strengths are, right? Because all the control mages at the end of the day, all the like 4 or 5 classic ones that we're going to talk about today, are all very similar, right? The way they win the game is similar. Just the difference is those minor X factors from each of them, right? Like Ori pulls a little bit further ahead in lane, has a little bit better util with her E, right? Victor is a little bit better side laning, a little bit self peel in the side, right? Mel's got that reflect X factor. So like all of these champs have their own kind of X factors to them. It's just, in my opinion, until you reach Challenger, which is again why we say Syndra up until low Challenger, Syndra, you're going to be able to utilize hers the most intuitively and the best, right? Her pick potential and her scaling X factor is the most relevant for the majority of ranks until you reach like the top pinnacle of the game. And then, in my opinion, both Ori and Victor honestly pull a little bit further ahead of Syndra personally. But
Yeah,
up until that point, I think Syndra just a little bit better, right? Which is why she's on her own tier.
absolutely. And I think it's cool. So since we're on the mages topics right now, let's
Yeah.
just wait with these and let's
Yep.
go to why Wei is a tier
Yeah.
lower and why Mel and the
Yep.
likes of Ziggs are even a tier lower to that. So why is Wei a
Yep.
tier lower than Zinran and Victor?
Yeah.
Or yeah,
So
Victor, my bad.
Yeah, so it's again, if we're gonna keep extrapolating, right? Hui is similar to these champs, just his strengths are a lot harder to utilize, right? What's Hui good at compared to a Victor, right? He has a little bit more AoE, he has a little bit better wave clear in lane, right? And he has more utility for his team, right? For control mage, he has quite a bit of utility, right? He's like pseudo support in some of those areas. The problem is that these types of abilities and skills and I guess the X factor he has just isn't objectively as powerful as just the damage output Victor does consistently, right?
Yeah.
Or how easy it is to lane with Victor with your E, right? Or the guaranteed util and a bruiser that Ori would have. So he just kind of he does everything to like a 6 out of 10 level away. That's how I view Hui. That's the problem with him. I think that's why he's A tier and not S. He's just a little understated. And again, he's too volatile, right? If we're gonna go
Yeah.
back to like the holistic understanding of this tier list that we're trying to make, he's too much changes. Like 3 patches ago, he probably would be an evergreen. But then like Riot just nukes him out of orbit like last patch, and all of a sudden he's just terrible now,
Yeah,
right?
it's so strange what they do to
Yeah,
this champ. They're just killing him for no reason. They killed him. He
yeah,
wasn't even strong and they kill him.
yeah,
Unbelievable what they
yeah.
did to this guy.
And if you just scroll down that list, it's like every other patch he goes from good to just killed to really good to killed. Like it's ridiculous. They
Yeah.
changed him way too much, in my opinion, for like a player for me to recommend. Like, hey, pick Hui, you're gonna feel happy the entire year. That's just not going to happen.
No.
That's just the reality.
And that's okay. Right?
Yeah,
There wouldn't
that's
be
right.
a tier list if there wouldn't be worse champs than
Exactly.
others.
That's right.
It's just
100%.
you know what you sign up for, right? And that's why he's evergreen, but not super evergreen. So he's like
Yeah.
semi evergreen.
Yep.
Now, Mel and Ziggs, all right? So these champs, they're also mages. They're slightly worse than the other ones. And there's a good reason for that. Let's start with Mel. And Ziggs has slightly different reasoning. Mel has the problem in the fact that she is quite low elo skewed.
Hmm.
And not necessarily because her kid being low elo skewed, it's because the frustration factor of this champ. If you don't know how to deal with Mel, you don't know how to deal with Mel.
Yeah.
If you're a low elo player, you're playing Ari, and you're versing up against Mel, you probably think that this is the most bullshit that you
Can't
ever.
do
This is
anything.
worse than
Do anything.
Yasuo, dude.
Yeah.
Instead of blocking it, just redirecting it at you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why Mel will never be like crazy strong without Riot like nuking lower elos. And that's why she's going to be consistent. She will do her job, but she's not going to be like that fucking good at winning games. Right now, she's probably the strongest that she's going to be
Yeah.
ever.
She's really good right
Really
now.
good. But her ban rate's been soaring, even in high
Yes.
elo. And that means that
Mhm.
she'll probably take a hit real soon.
Very volatile.
Very volatile. Six. Why six, AJ?
Yeah, so I mean, just to kind of reiterate, it's kind of similar to the previous two tier lists already that we talked about earlier. It's just the reality is that he's too specific, right? Yes, he's got good tower taking. Yes, his trading in lane is actually pretty good, honestly. Um, yes, his pre setup to objectives and zoning and poking is quite good, right? But he's missing the other skill set that these other mages have, right? You don't get that side lane that you get from a Victor or Ori, right? Your ability, the way you land your damage is very inconsistent on like even something like a Syndra, right? So
Yep.
it's like your ability to play a particular game as Ziggs is going to swing so much from game to game. You're gonna like a lot of Zig mains. You guys are gonna have games where you feel like you're on top of the world. You're just completely a 1v9 machine. The next game you play, you're like, man, why the fuck am I even playing Ziggs? Right? It just feels miserable, right? So he's consistent in the sense that he doesn't get changed much, which is good, but he's inconsistent and he's not evergreen because his matchups can be a little annoying, right? Sometimes you just play a game where you just can't farm once mid game rolls around. Sometimes you can't utilize your turn taking power, and you just feel really weak. And you feel like, man, I wish I was just playing a more consistent mage like an Ori or
Yeah.
Victor.
Yeah, I love that. So we've now had the mages. We know how the
Yeah,
mages interact, why they're so good at teaching the game fundamentals. We're now going to move on to the skirmish-oriented mages, okay? Which is going to
yep,
be the likes of Galio, Ari, Talia. And then on the semi-evergreen page, we got ourselves all the way up until LeBlanc, Aurora, Rise. And then below that,
yep,
we got ourselves all the way up until Swain, Lissandra, Vex, TF. And we're just
yep,
going to have a crack at them one by one.
yep,
And we're going to just look at the specifics of these champions. Now, we're going to start
yeah,
off with the best champs and the evergreen champs. We're going to explain why they're evergreen, and that is just their ability to teach the fundamentals. These champions
yeah.
are so unbelievably sexy at doing so. We talked about it already with Galio and Ari extensively in the previous tier list. To reiterate a little bit, Ari is the jack of all trades of mid lane. She can do anything, and she's decent at side laning. She's decent skirmishing. Doesn't have the strongest lane, but she has the tools to get through the lane.
Hmm.
She has the tools to be opportunistic. She has the flexibility in her kit, and the way that she interacts with the fundamentals and her reference points is just really good. Galio, just like that, but then the melee version of it. This is like
Hmm.
the guy that will win you games, this
Yeah.
champion. If you know how to play this champ and play towards the reference points, there's certain drafts as well that you will just win. You just win. And it's just amazing, especially if you know how to set
Hmm.
up and play with your jungle. Man, it's good. Talia,
Same with Talia.
yes. Walk us through Talia here, AJ.
Yeah,
Why Talia?
it's the same thing, and even for all these S champions, if I were just to say these skirmish-oriented S champs, they just win games. Like that's if I'm gonna be just very like practical, you just will win tons of games with these champions because they either have pick in their kit, like Ari, or Talia has the ability to basically not play lane, right? Which is good once you're higher elo specifically, because then you understand when that's the right time to do so. And then you could just be at every play. You could defend dives, you could play to your win con, you probably understand what your win con is, right? Tilia has that set up with your engaged supports, which are very, very meta, right? And so these champions just have the ability to kind of just work in kind of every single game and every single environment. They don't really get changed very much. And even if they do get changed, like sure, Ari gets changed a lot, but she still does Ari stuff no matter what. Right,
Yeah.
and you still learn things. You just win games with these champs, right?
Why?
So he's got that.
Why do we win games? The reason why we win games is because League is a fighting game, right? We talked about this
Yes,
so
exactly.
often. And
It's a
these
fighting game
champs
first. They
are
fight.
the best fighters. Not
Yes,
in the sense that their fighting is better than like the likes of an Akali. They're the best fighters because they nuke the wave
you
in
get to be
half a
there.
second. And
Yes,
they can
you get to be
use
at every
their
fight.
movement on the
Hmm.
map to be there on every fight, and that wins them
Yes,
games.
yes,
This indeed wins games just because of your proactivity. These are probably the most proactive champs that you're going to get. And there's an argument that we can put in the Akshan next to that, right?
yeah,
He's a little bit more challenging micro-wise. That's why we got him in a different bucket. But, these champs will just be at every fight, and therefore they're so unbelievably strong. And these are the most consistent, right? The top row, the evergreen. Meta-wise, these champs are always going to be decent.
yeah. And even just to segue that into the reason why like LeBlanc and Aurora aren't there, because somebody might ask, well, Tim and AJ, like these champs push and move. The reality is the way you win games with LeBlanc and Aurora is that you have to kind of fist fight your laner as the best way to describe it. You need to play offense is offense, if that makes sense, right? Like you have to be really, really focused on your trading and your 1v1, and pushing and moving is just weaker on these champions compared to Ari and Talia. Either you
Yeah.
can do it and it will work. It's just that's not the full design of their kit, right? They don't scale as well. They probably have some weaknesses in other areas in their kit, right? Like Aurora has really high mana cost, high cooldowns, right? Stuff like that. So like Ari and Talia, if you play every lane in a way where you just are at every play, you're gonna win like majority of your games. But if you do that on the LeBlanc and Aurora, you're gonna find games where you might actually lose if you do that because you didn't
Yeah.
get a big enough lead in your isolated lane. So that's, in my opinion, why LeBlanc and Aurora are A, and Galio and Talia and Ari are S as a
Yeah.
comparison.
And we also want to look at meta volatility, right? The
That too.
Aurora and
Yeah.
the LeBlanc, and in this case also the Rise. That's why Rise is in semi-evergreen. These champs are heavily affected by pro play, like heavily
Yes.
affected. If
Yeah.
Aurora gets too good, she's flexed in top and
Gone.
mid, nuked. If Rise
Yep.
gets too good, all right, Faker's playing him every game, nuked.
Fakers on Worlds. All right, my rise for a
Yeah,
little
we
bit.
can't have Fakers have 4 titles in a row. That's too much. Next year we gotta nuke this champion. So these champs are just more volatile than the likes
Mhm.
of the other champs, which will just do their job every single game. It's
Yep.
unbelievable. Now, we've talked about the semi-evergreen and the evergreen champs. Regardless of what you like, what your preference is, if you choose any of the evergreen or semi-evergreen champs, you're
You're
gonna
gonna
be
be happy.
fine. You're
Yep.
gonna be totally fine. But we're now gonna move on to the consistent champs, and these consistent champs have some issues. They have got glaring
Yes.
weaknesses. Now, we're going to start with the likes of Lissandra and Vex. These champs are very good at what they do. They're a very fucking good fighter. They're good shove and mover. They just have a massive issue. They
Yep.
can't deal with tanks. And number two, they're shit versus long range champs.
Yeah, some of their matchups are literally unplayable. Like you can't do anything in some of these matchups.
That's right.
Just yeah, like for example, you play Mal into Vex. That Vex is literally not playing the game ever. There's not a single thing you could do as Mel as Vex into Mel. Right, you reflect her E as Mel with your W, and fears her, and she can't like she needs to start her trade with her E. So it's game is completely unplayable already right off the bat. Right. Well, Lissandra, right? You play against like a Victor as a Lissandra who rushes Mercs. Yeah, good luck. You're not playing the game, right? You're stuck on your turn the whole game. Can't even play your champ's identity. You're screwed.
Yeah, absolutely. So these champs just have more weaknesses. They can still
Yeah.
create these number advantages. There's going to be drafts where if you look as a counter pick the Lissandra or the Vex or the Swain, right, you're
Yeah.
going to be able to execute and
You're
you're
gonna
going
be
to be
happy.
useful as fuck, right?
Yeah.
You're going to be very oppressive. But it's just harder to get in these positions consistently. You can't
Hmm.
blind these champs without running into severe issues. That's
No.
why they're consistent. And I don't like creating pools primarily situated from these champs. If you're maining these champs, not a good idea. If you're gonna try to create a build a champion pool, try to find and main champs that are in the evergreen or semi-evergreen tier, because these are champs that you can
Yes.
blind and you can do well with regardless of the game state.
Yes. And then you complement it with, like maybe you want to play Vax like 10, 15% of your games, right? It's a nice counter
Yeah,
pick. And then I think it's the effectiveness starts to go up a lot when you pick the right game for Vax or Lissandra.
absolutely. Absolutely. Anything you want to add to this skirmish-oriented mages here?
No, I guess we should talk about Swain as well while we're
Yeah,
here, right? I mean, the thing I would say about Swain is, I mean, yeah, he's kind of similar to Vex and Lissandra, right? And in the sense that in the wrong game, you're gonna feel miserable as Swain, but in the right game, you're gonna feel like a god, right? And so I think that's what makes him a little awkward. I think the champ is actually good. Just you need to be in the right game. You play against Ari, you're gonna be happy. You play against Gal, you'll be happy. But you play against a long range champ, you're not gonna have a good time.
good luck for
Or you play
Syndra
as
though.
Hyperst. Yeah, you're not gonna have a good time.
Yeah, good luck for Bard too. You're gonna get
Yeah.
kited, and it's just you're gonna get kited. Your ult's gonna get waited out, and then
Yeah.
you just have no
Yeah.
use case. Just rough. Okay, we're gonna move on to the little bit more assassin or the more mechanical skirmish-oriented champions, right?
Hmm.
These champions are in a slightly different category because you could, like, for example, compare Akshan to the likes of these champs. Very similar game plan, bunch of options, but the level of micro execution required for these champs is just way higher. Like, compare that to a Zoe, right? If you want to become a really good Zoe, right, you need to play thousands of Zoe games.
Yes.
If you
Yeah.
want to become a really good Ari, 200 games, you're going to be a fucking decent Ari, dude. You're going
Yeah.
to be a good Ari. But not on Akshan, not on Zoe, and not on Akali. These champs require more repetitions, and the
Yeah.
skill ceiling is a lot higher. Now, what do you think about these champs? What makes them evergreen, AJ?
Yeah, so I think the key for me whenever I think of a champion being strong, it means you can play them in a wide variety of games and a wide variety of matchups. Your first 15 minutes are replicable. That's the best way, I guess, of me describing evergreen, right? Like, and so the problem is with a champion, or sorry, like the good things about a champion like Zoe and Akshan and Akali is that they all can have a similar game plan in lane, right? Like Akshan, there's some creative things you can do to win against control mages, right? I've seen fans that take electrocute, and you can do that to win lanes. You can do the bug with a longer auto range to win your lanes. Zoe basically has a strong first 15 minutes no matter what champion you're against. And Akali is probably one of the most proactive D-Shield second win users, which means you can navigate lanes with war attrition offensively, right? And so these champions have a really consistent first 15 minutes. You actually get to your game plan, and then you start to take over games. That's why I think they're evergreen. And that's why I think they're quite strong, because then you can get to your skirmishes on these champs. You're happy. Akshan gets to your Shiv. You're chilling. Akali gets to Proto Belt. You're chilling. Zoe gets a Electrocute Ignite with Lost Chapter. You're happy. You can do that every game if
Yeah,
you have the skill.
absolutely. The only thing is that the micro execution bar, the mechanical floor, is
Yes.
just severely higher than
Yes,
the
it
other
is.
champs. And these are champs
Correct.
that, if you're going to be looking at these, right, you mainly want to like OTP or like two trick them. And
Yes.
then you can combine them with like an easier champion, maybe from
Yes.
the other evergreen tier or from the semi or the consistent tier, which is
Yep.
a little bit lower mechanical intensity. Combine an Akshan with a Galio, combine an Akshan with an Ari, and your pool is going to be deadly, dude. Deadly
Yep.
pool.
Yep.
Okay. Now, I don't think that the likes of Kassadin, Zed, Aurelia, and Yasuo fit in the same pool. I think that if we look at the Yasuo and the Aurelia, I think they will. Yasuo and Aurelia are like worse champs than these. So we're
Yep.
going to line these up with blue as well. Very straightforward reference point. If you play Aurelia or
Yep.
Yasuo, you are the king of the lane, right?
Yes.
As long as you manage your waves well, as long as you make sure that you land your Demi on Aurelia, and you can get these good quality trades going and force extended trades, you're going to be able to do your stuff insanely well, get leads, and be able to consistently snowball throughout the game. These champs are fantastic. They're just a little bit worse than the other champs. Why is that the case? I think they're a little bit more volatile to meta changes. I also
Yes.
think that they're a little bit more volatile to how the enemy team decides to play around you. If you're playing up against the fucking Nautilus or a Rek'Sai, suddenly you can't really do what you want to do. Zoe, Aksham, they can nuke the wave. Akali, she can use her W for Shroud, nuke the wave. She can always avoid the lane and look to play around skirmish in the map. Aurelia and Yasuo, they struggle with that. They're a little bit more vulnerable towards these ganks. What do you think of that?
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. I think it's, and I would even go even further. I think it's also based on what your team has as well, right? Like when I'm
Mm,
thinking, like, let's say you're playing Irelia, you play Irelia, and the enemy has a lot of hard CC for you, but then your team is a team fight comp. What the hell is your job as an Irelia that game? You're just completely useless, right? If you don't have a side laning multi-threat comp, what are you going to do that game, right? You're going to be that, and but compare that to an Akali. Akali could go team fight perfectly fine, even against a Lulu or Karma, right? If you have a multi-threat team, Karma, Akali could definitely play that, or like take Yasuo as well. Imagine you play Yasuo and the enemy has a lot of range or a lot of tools to disengage you, and you don't have any other knockups, and you have to generate them yourself. You're gonna feel
brutal.
terrible in that game, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm speaking from experience, guys. I was a Yasuo OTP for 6 or 7 years, and I remember when I was in that Diamond Master range, I would play games where I would like end the game in 30 minutes, do 8,000 damage because I just had no fucking idea how to do damage in that game. I had no idea. I had no way to get a good access, and I didn't understand the game well enough, which means that you have to overemphasize on that skill, which means they're not as scalable as an Akali or Zoe, in my opinion. It takes way more work for like less return, in my opinion, because of how volatile the game by game is gonna feel.
Yeah, understandably so. So we also have Kassadin and Zed. And
Yeah,
these champions are quite good in their respective niche. They're
but it's
just
still the
a little
niche.
bit
Yeah.
unique, right?
Yes.
Kassadin, for example, he's got this trait that the first 6 levels of your game are just non-existent. If
Yep.
you can get through that and you can get there, you're gonna actually be very strong. And if you learn the matchups, even the tougher matchup, you can go through and climb high on Kassadin. He is also quite good at teaching clear reference points. He's really good at teaching being greedy, playing for yourself as the carry. He's really good at teaching side laning, one of the best side laning tempo teachers in the game. Hence is why he's on the list in A tier and not in B tier, because the ability for you to read tempo and learn tempo through this champ is actually fantastic. Zed, on the other hand, is just a deadly skirmisher. Also a pretty weak lane, but the abilities to get
Good
through it.
scaling. Yeah.
And he also has this just he just is Zed. Has Zed changed over the past year? It's just fucking
Yeah,
Zed.
he's really consistent. Yeah,
Yeah.
his identity has been the same for years. Like even yes, sure they changed the interaction, the micro interactions. Maybe the build changes a little bit. Maybe that kind of changes identity. But his kid has been his kid for forever, which is
Yeah.
very impressive for a champion that is so complex in terms of mechanics.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to play Zed and you get enough repetitions in on this champ, the climb will absolutely be doable because you're going to build
Yep.
enough mastery. And we're going to talk about where to be on the map and what type of decisions to make to improve your holistic game understanding. Hence why these champs are semi-evergreen and definitely fine if you're willing to put in the time on these champions. Now, we're moving on to the consistent fighter slash assassins right
Mm,
here. And these champions, they were quite decent in the lower ranks. they were a little bit better than all of these other champs mentioned, but now they're a little bit worse than these other champs because these champs have a little bit of downsides. And we'll start with Pantheon. First things first, there's no one in hell you're ever going to blind Pantheon when there's
Nope.
mages in the game. Good luck for
Yeah.
Zinra, good luck for Oriana, good luck for all of this shit. You can't play the game, you're going to get pushed in, it's hard for you to survive, and you're going to go down and go really weak. Now, if you play Pantheon as a counter pick, what will happen is that you're going to play one of the best champs in the game, right? If you're going to be able to get
Yep.
lane prio, you're going to have infinite options around the map. Your skirmishing is absolutely mental. Your ability to play with your jungle is really good, and that makes your champion very, very, very nice. Compare that to like the Swain, counter pick, the Sandra, counter pick, Vex, counter pick. These are all counter pick oriented champs that if you get the right place of the right time, these champs will do damn work. Now, what about the Nefiri and the Echo? Why are these worse than the likes of the
Mm.
Akali and the Zed and the Kassadin, AJ?
Yeah. Yeah, so to tie everything together, right? I want to reference what I said about Akali, right? Akali has a replicable first 15 minutes, right? The problem with the Fairy and Echo is it's not so replicable, in my opinion. You have to really abuse the enemy's lack of understanding of your champion, or you have to be in a good lane, or you need jungle and support assistance, right? I mean, if you, I remember Curtis sent me a video of like the rank 1 Korean Neferi mid guy. This guy takes Nimbus Cloak, Ignite level 1 with Hail of Blades, goes behind the Raptor wall, ease over, ignites for Nimbus Cloak, and autos somebody 3 times just so he can play lane, right? And so when I describe that, that does not sound like that doesn't sound replicable at all, right? That's just pure gimmick, pure catching the enemy off guard, so you can bypass lane. Because once you get out of lane with these champs, they're great, right? They're rivaling the higher tiers. Just it's not consistent, right? You play Echo in a hard matchup, right? Like I remember I would counter pick Mbess into Echo. Good luck, you're not doing anything as Echo in that lane, right?
Yeah.
Nothing, right? And then if Fairy gets a mage, most mages, you're gonna struggle, right? And so that's the problem. Is like you just need to find a way. You need to be very creative as a main of this champion and finding ways to survive the first 15 minutes. That's not the same as how other mid lane champions would do it.
Yeah. And you have to keep in mind that these champs, the higher elo you go, the lower their effectiveness becomes.
Yes,
So if you're an Emerald, these champs might
they're gonna
actually
be good.
still be A or S.
Yeah,
If you're in Diamond, they're dropping a rank below.
drop
If
a
you're
little
a
bit.
Master,
Yeah,
they're dropping a rank below, right? And if you're in Challenger, suddenly Echo is going to be brutally hard to play
yeah,
because everyone's going to run, every mage is going to run bone plating plus and flinching and good luck dealing
yeah,
damage now, right?
yeah,
And you're going to get just poked in lane, you're going to go down 40 CS. It's just brutal to play. Good luck playing the
yeah,
Rise, by the way, as
yeah.
Echo.
Or yeah, Aurora as well is unplayable too. So
Right. And
a
these
lot
are
of hard
champs that are
ones.
just frequently blinded. So it's just so hard to play your game.
Yeah,
Also, the micro interactions on this champion Echo, you need to be like an OTP to pull it off in really high ranks.
yeah,
Otherwise, it's very challenging to get through. Now, Fury can be like a little bit of a secondary pick, but
yeah.
Echo is
Agreed.
you got to be an OTP. Respect to
Agreed.
the Echo players. So we're now moving on away from the Z, S, A, and B tier.
Yep.
We're going to be talking about the real tiers right now. The inconsistent tiers and the dog shit tiers. So we're gonna start with bucketing up the first 4 champions on the
Mhm.
inconsistent tier. And since these are champs that you've got a lot of experience with, I want
Yep.
you to explain why these champs are inconsistent instead of consistent, and why that maybe last year there were arguments to put Yon even in semi
Yes.
evergreen or
Okay.
Azir there, but right now they're just out of the
Yeah.
picture.
Okay. Yeah. All 4 of these champs, the common traits they share with each other is volatility. That's the key word I want to start with. They are some of the most volatile champions in the entire game for mid, right? I'm sure you guys can imagine the Silas Akali meta. That was 2022. Where has Silas been? We see Silas once every 20 games with Fearless now, all of a sudden, right? Take the Jace meta. There was a Jace mid meta at one point. I think it was against ADC mids or something. I don't remember. And then where's Jace mid? They buffed Jace's Q by 33%, nowhere to be found, right? Azir goes from a 50% win rate champ to 42% win rate in one patch. Yone, same thing. So the problem with these champions is that what happens is you go from literally one patch, you're doing really well with them, to the next patch, you also have to be 3 times as good to make it work, right? So that's the first thing I want to start with, bring the attention to, is the volatility is insane on these champions. The second thing I would say is that these are champions that are like the inverse of Neferi Echo. So the lower elo you are, the harder they're gonna feel to play, right? Like the amount of Emerald Yones I've seen who are just struggling and struggling and struggling, I feel so bad. I try my best to help them, but it's just there's times where it's just like it's overwhelming, right? And so these champions scale with how good you get at the game with your fundamentals, and so they're just not consistent, right? Because majority, it's gonna take a long time if you become grandmaster level or high master level, yada yada yada, right? And then the third thing I would say is they just have too many options. It gets to the point where they're great for learning the game, but it's like a double-edged sword. Because there's so many options, you can learn the game really well, but then also like you can stun lock yourself to the point where like, man, what the hell? I got
Yeah.
so many options in this year. Where do I even start? Kind of
Yeah.
thing. So that makes them really inconsistent because you just feel like you're over the moon sometimes, and then other times, whether it's patch or meta or how you're feeling or what you're struggling with, you're just gonna feel like complete shit.
Yeah. And this is beautiful, right? Because these champions, they got like the worst of everything. They got insanely
Yeah.
hard micro and macro execution.
Yeah.
And what I see with players that attempt on these champions, right, is that they're just hard fucking stuck. Like if you have the picture of someone being hard stuck, they're playing one of these champs. Like impossible to
Yes.
move on these champs
Yes.
because
Correct.
they're so hard to improve on these champs. Like
Mhm.
how do you even improve when you don't know which out of the 100 options you need to choose, or if the difference between you winning or losing lane is landing that one extra shock blast, or
Yes.
knowing how to space perfectly on Jace. How do you learn
Yeah.
that, right? How do
Yeah.
you learn that besides just being fucking mechanically talented or just gifted by the
Yeah.
gods? It's just
Yeah.
hard, and that's why these
100%.
champs are inconsistent. They're not dog shit. They have positive attributes. They can teach the game on the right circumstances, but
You
they're
have to be very
inconsistent.
vigilant with these. Like you gotta work. You really have to work your ass off. You have to go
Yeah.
above and beyond. You got to be like studious. You have to be really curious about the
Obsessed.
game. Yeah, that's a great word. Obsessed.
Yes.
Yeah,
You have to
that's
be
because
obsessed.
you guys want to know. That's how I got going. I was obsessed with him. It took me. I think I tell a story. It took me 800 games to have a 50% win rate with Yone or something like that. 800 games. How many people do you think could stomach playing that many games with a negative win rate of a champ before you get to the
Yeah.
point where you're gonna have to pilot them,
Because
right?
you're losing. You're
You're
dropping
losing.
ranks in
Yeah.
between, right? Yeah.
I remember the first split I got challenger. My win rate was I started my placements plat 4, 9 and 38 or something. That was my win rate. And that was the season I ended challenger. But I started that because I was so shit at Yone because I was trying to play Yone also at the same time. But I was just so obsessed. I could not stop trying to get better at the champ. So you need to have that obsession to make these champs work, in my opinion.
Yeah, love that. Okay, moving on to the next bucket here, which is the likes of Kiana. It's the likes of Katarina, Fizz, and Diana. Now, these are a little bit interesting because these champs have clear downsides, all of them, in a
Yeah.
specific way. It's not like they're all the similar downsides. They have just clear downsides, hence is why they're
Yep.
inconsistent. And we're going to unpack them one by one. Kiana used to be fucking consistent, actually.
Hmm.
Kiana used to be a great champion to play as a mid laner. There's just a massive problem that Riot recently introduced. They buffed her for jungle. So this champion is on the hit list. Just like Wei, Riot is currently sniping the shit out of these Kiana players right here. And it means that not only Kiana jungle is going to get nerfed, but also Kiana mid is therefore going to be inconsistent and very volatile. I liked Kiana when she was decent on
Hmm.
mid. I like this champ. She had clear strengths, clear weaknesses. I can't stand this champion in the jungle.
Me
It's
neither.
fake skill. It's fake skill.
Yeah.
Complete fake skill playing this champ in the jungle. If you played on mid, sure thing. You're doing something well because you got to get through the first 3 levels of the game, which is
Yeah.
really hard
Hmm.
versus good players. But if you play
100%.
this champ in the jungle, which is free pass to level 4, right? Complete fake skill. And that's why I think Kiana is going to be a massive problem for a longer period of time. And therefore, I would put her in inconsistent. What about Kata, AJ?
Yeah, so Kat is interesting because she's very specific with what she wants to do, right? So that's what makes her inconsistent. I think the champ itself is like objectively pretty strong,
Yeah,
honestly.
really
I actually,
broken, I think.
yeah, I actually think she's quite. It's just very specific what you're trying to do, right? You want to roam on neutral waves and sometimes just drop your waves to move. You want to really keep an eye out on the HP and volatility of your side lanes, right? You want to find all in windows in lane to give yourself space to lane. You know what I mean? So
Clean
it's
up
like
fighting and stuff like that. It's just unique.
yeah, clean up fighting, being really late to fights, which is very unique, especially for a mid lane champion. So it's like it's not she's here not like let's compare her to Yone, right? She's here not because she's objectively like extremely difficult and complicated reference point wise. It's actually very practical reference points wise. It's just inconsistent because some games you're not gonna find windows to just drop a wave mid and quad like triple kill their bot, right? You're not gonna find a game where the enemy has 0 CC and you can just play the game however you want, right? So that's what kind of makes her a little sometimes it doesn't feel the best to play.
Yeah. And Kata is also one of these champs that I see just a lot of players, especially we have a massive Kata community in our coaching
Yeah,
program,
we
right?
do.
And
Yeah.
we got a dedicated Kata mentor helping Kata players out on extra sessions because if you don't put in the work on this champion, just like the previous ones, you will be stuck
You're gonna
for
struggle.
good. You're gonna
Yeah.
be hard stuck.
Yeah.
It's impossible to move. Like it's like sinking sand. How does it?
Quicksand.
Quicksand, exactly. Playing kata without being obsessed is like trying to climb through quicksand. It's impossible without help
Yeah.
or someone dragging you out.
Yep.
Fizz, Fizz has made his way up from dog shit tier into the C tier. Fizz used to be one of the worst champions to play in high
Yeah.
elo because of the fact that everyone knew what the counter was to Fizz, bone plating, and Fizz couldn't play the game, right? Was too weak, got too far behind, and it's really hard to then play. Now, Fizz got on a lot of buffs recently, and therefore he can now actually brute force his way through the lane, has an easier time snowballing,
Hmm.
and now has actually the potential to play the game and have impact on the map. Fizz is still going to be a little bit inconsistent. If you still play Fizz versus players with good fundamentals, they will abuse you. Bone plating now has an extra friend in the tier, which is unflinching. And unflinching
Yep.
is one of the biggest counters to Fizz. I've recently been running it on every mage that I play versus Fizz. Fizz can't ever start his trades with ult anymore. He can't start his trades with E anymore because the slows will give you 10 MR and armor, and now he suddenly doesn't deal any damage to you anymore. Versus Fizz, just get yourself a null magic or get yourself a ruby
Yep.
crystal, and he can't play the game. And you just got to play small win oriented trades with your longer range, and Fizz is just going to massively struggle in the lane.
Agreed.
Inconsistent.
Yep. Love it.
Diana. Why is Diana also inconsistent?
Yeah, so Diana's an interesting one. I think a lot of the inconsistency of Diana is more about like abusing if the enemy doesn't know how to play against Diana. I guess that's the best way of saying it. That's what makes her inconsistent,
Yeah.
right? Like if the enemy doesn't know how to dodge your Q and you're just throwing your Q over and over again with Scorch and proccing it, and then you're all inning them with your E, she's like feels like the best champ in the game,
Yeah.
right? But then you get a game where, or you climb more, and the enemy knows they need to step inside your queue, right? Rather than try to run away from it, you step inside the crescent range, right? To dodge it, you step into it, kind of like Galio, right? And then all of a sudden, you lost your main poke tool, right? Or you played higher elo and people have more diverse pools, and they pick Rise into you. Good luck with that, right? So Diana is just a little inconsistent in that regard because you really need to leverage your strong laning, but it's like unique laning, kind of like you're very unique with your Q, and you need to leverage that and get pushed and start to move around the map. And if you don't do that, you're gonna be completely worthless, right? If you
Yeah.
can do that, you're gonna feel amazing, right? And so I think it's like her matchups are a little rough at times, and yeah, if the enemy knows how to play against your Q, good luck killing them. Good luck getting your level 6 hold in.
Yeah. And the thing with Diana as well is that she only has one mode, and that makes it really
Yeah,
linear.
only going.
She can
Yeah.
go in and she can't go out. If you look at the rest of
Yep.
these champs here, they can go out, they can jump away.
Yep.
Diana cannot do that. She is super vulnerable to ganks. She has no way of getting out after going in, and her side
Yep.
laning therefore is also inconsistent because it's just so easy to collapse onto her. While she is a champ that wants to leverage side lane to create number advantages or use her strong 1v1 to get pressure. But if she can't do that because she's just constantly under threat, or you're playing versus a Rek'Sai or something like that, you just can't play the game, man. It's just so hard to
Yep.
play the game. And hence is why
100%.
she's inconsistent. She can be good in good scenarios, but inconsistent, in my opinion. Okay, the next bucket here, the 80 carry bucket. Now,
Yep.
I'm not a big 80 carry player, so I'm going to leave this
Yep.
one totally to you. Why did we put him in inconsistent?
Yep, I was a big AD carry player. I think it was 2 years ago when it was the meta. Just to keep it really short and practical and sweet, they're just a bit weak right now, right? Fleet got nerfed, Absorb Life got nerfed, the mages got buffed, the mage runes got buffed, right? So what happened? The reason why they were good before is that you could get out of lane, right? And then once you hit the side lane, you're a complete menace, and that's where you really get your lead, right? That's where you start scaling. And now we're at the point where you have to figure out how to survive that first 15 minutes. And again, what I've been alluding to this entire video is the most important thing is the first 15 minutes as a mid laner. That is really freaking important. So having a very weak first 15 minutes against these mages, especially when mages are quite good right now, they're not that consistent, right? They're very inconsistent because you're going to get metas eventually. And I know there's going to be a meta at some point where mages taper off a little bit. And I promise you ADC mids will rise again, right? You're going to see Smolder into Galio. You're going to see Tristan to Yone, right? You're going to see Corki into, Kiana or something, right? And you're going to do great. It's just right now, they don't have the tools to survive lane effectively. But if you want to play them, then that's fine. You just got to learn how to play your first 15 minutes. And then once you get to the sideline, you're going to be a menace.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see that they're all also therefore quite volatile to the meta, right?
Yes,
It really
exactly.
depends on what are the other champs that are being played in the
Yes,
lane that's going to dictate if
correct.
these champs can survive or not. And that's why they can't be like anywhere above inconsistent.
Yes, correct.
Now, we got a bit of a unique bucket. This is a bit of like everything at once and still nothing
Yeah.
bucket here. All right. So I think we just got to unpack these champs one by one. Anivia, her 1 to 5 is one of the weakest in the entire game,
Yeah.
and she's gonna get pushed in. She really struggles trading. Like landing her Q pre 6 is just fucking hard. And she's gonna drop a bunch of CS, a bunch of prio, and she's really struggling to get the game going post 6 as well because you're playing versus a lot of mages that then just nuke you even faster. Yes, you can brute force prio in 1 or 2 waves, but then you have to reset, so you can't do much with the prio. So you're kind of just avoiding lane in a way. You're not learning how to trade. Her skills are very rarely transferable, and she's also quite linear in the way that she approaches the game. Now, if you can get a good draft, she can be one of the strongest champs that you can play out there. She is very effective at winning games, especially if you're really good at her. But her micro is also quite unique, and therefore, in my opinion, for improvement, unless you want to be like an OTP, I don't really recommend her. Now, the likes of Seraph and Velkos. Why are these in inconsistent AJ?
Yeah, I think the best way to bucket these first three champs in Nivea Zerath Vel'Koz, like for me, is again, League is a fighting game. These champs can't freaking fight. I like how do you fight as a Zerath or a Nivea at a grub skirmish? What the hell are you doing? You're not doing anything, right? You have to like be really precise with your priority. You have to keep your HP really healthy. You have to have like insane accuracy with Zerath ult to be useful at all early game. And we even saw it with the Korea 1K LP Zerath guy. He takes freaking Dark Harvest and Ignite just to make the like have as much early power as possible, right? To have as much early game skirmishing as power as possible. That's just a testament to the fact that these champs just are so bad at fighting, which is what League has really become, right? With grubs, how much better people got out of the game, stacking dragons, tower diving, all this stuff. They're just very mediocre at it. Especially compared to the other mages, in my opinion. Like I'd much rather play Ori in a grubs fight than an Anivia or a Vel'Koz. So that's my 2 cents. That's my biggest gripe with these three. Xerath
Yeah,
and Vel'Koz specifically, just not good side laning, right? Coming into mid game as
yeah.
well.
There's a few other points about these grips fights, right? Because there's a
Yeah,
lot of fighting going on. If you look at
yeah,
these abilities, Oriana's and Victor's abilities are less flashable in a way as well. They're less
yeah.
dodgeable than these Seraph abilities
Less
right here.
reactable.
Less
Yeah,
reactable. And we also have to keep in mind that if you play the likes of Oriana and Victor, who's early game bully mages, what they usually do is they usually play these grip fights very unfair. They pin you down in the lane.
they
They've
have
got
mega
good
first
quality
round.
vision,
Yeah,
and they don't play the fair 5v5. They just make sure that you can't really enter, and then they
yeah.
trade your HP while coming in. If you play fucking Ari into Velkos, I remember I had a game a
Just gonna
week ago.
ignore.
I just
Yeah.
ignored this guy. He was
Oh
he
yeah.
was doing all these angles and all these cues. He murdered me with his abilities. I just shoved the wave, reset, come back. I was first in these jungle fights. I'm just gonna show it to you, right? While we're looking at the rest of the tier list, I'm gonna be taking up this vault. And feel free to elaborate why Cassiopeia is also in this tier list here.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
find useful.
Yeah, of course. So I think, yeah, Casio. The problem with Casio is that she is very, very, very similar to these ADCs, right? She's meta dependent, right? I think if you pick Casio into Rise, you're really happy. If you pick Casio into Galio, you're quite happy. The problem is that Casio doesn't have the ability to be picked in every game, but yet everyone who plays Casio wants to play her in every game, right? So she's inconsistent, kind of like Diana and these ADCs. You're not gonna have games where you're very happy playing Casio. Right? You're very gimmicky in that sense. You're gonna have to take like Nimbus Cloak and Ignite or Ghost or something, and like run down like an Ori level 1 to have any hope of playing the game, right? And then post like level 6 or level 7, those Groud's fights are gonna be annoying against high range champs, that's for sure. And then
You must be
she
first
doesn't,
as well.
yeah,
If you're not
yeah, exactly,
first, how do you walk into choke points?
yeah,
Right? And she also
and
has
that's hard to be
this
first with her.
yeah, she's this hard thing in side laning. Like you want a side because you beat the other mages in the side, but then you really struggle transitioning towards different parts of the map. And you also then kind of want to be first, but you're kind of like
Yeah,
immobile, and it's hard for you to like
yeah.
get away from threat. You're bell mage in that sense. You
Yeah,
kind of
like you
stand your
need
ground.
champions that come into you. Like you need the enemy to make your game easy, pretty much. That's what makes Cassio good. So she's not so by her nature she can't be consistent. It's not possible, right?
Yep. So we're gonna take a look at this vault here. That why the likes of Velkos and even Anivia, right? Compare yourself
Yeah,
to these similar champs. So what happens is that I'm just pushing Velkos in. He's taking like some crazy trades. He's like landing these Qs with the craziest angles that I've ever seen in my life. And what I just do, I push him in. I reset. I pin him in a tower. I force him to lose creeps because he can't push in the tower. He's got a crazy angle with his Q again right here. He completely predicts me stepping forward. Great job by him. No problem, muchacho. I'll just push the wave in, right? And guess what
Yep.
happens? He's now forced to respond. He's dropping creeps in the tower. And another crazy Q by him. No problem. I'm just going to nuke the wave. No problem. I'm just nuking the wave. He still's got TP up. I'm just nuking the wave up. He can't reset because I'm just nuking these waves into him. And now we're in a position where I just completely ignore him again. I'm syncing up with my Rengar, Assassin Rengar, by the way. So what I do is just nuke these waves into the Velkos. I move to cover top. I've not interacted with this Velkos once, and I'm covering my top lane already. Once again, not trading with this guy, letting the wave push towards me. And I'm doing the exact same thing right here. I'm just keeping my eyes on the Rengar. I find one nice trade because he's forced to respond to these minions. I'm not killing him. I'm just playing with my Rengar, and I'm just taking over the map right here. And this is just what's going to happen when you play a champ like Velkos. Good
Yep.
luck bouncing back from your bot getting killed by an Ari and your
Yep.
Rengar being 5-0. Good luck side laning, getting access to
Can't play
farm.
anymore.
Can't play the game. Game's over at minute
Yep.
9.
Yep. That's why these champs, by the way, are much better in bot because
Yeah,
these problems don't exist in bot lane.
yeah.
You don't have any of these issues in bot.
I think Velkos is a great champion on bot lane, by the
Valka's
way.
amazing in bot. Same with like
Amazing.
Mel, Wei. These champs are way better in bot.
Absolutely. Now, the final one is Asol. Asol is inconsistent because he's unique in the way that he trades, the way that he finds these all-ins in lane. Which other champion does that by poking and trading with Scorch and Comet and then finding an all-in? It's quite rare that we see that
Yeah. There's not
in
that
mid
many
lane.
here. Yeah.
He also needs to require a bunch of matchup understanding. He's a bit of an OTP champ to make him work in the higher ranks.
Yep.
But is this really a champ worth OTPing in the higher ranks when his win rates and his kit is so skewed to the lower ranks?
Yeah. So you kind of got this like lose-lose situation or
Yeah,
catch 22, right? It's like, okay, like if you learn the game with Asol, you're gonna climb, but then you're not gonna climb anymore, and you haven't learned anything about the game because the skills aren't that transferable to other champions, right? So you're in this weird dilemma where it's like really awkward because he's a counter pick champion in high elo, but then you also need mastery on him. So it's like he's like really weird. He's like good if you're like ultra long term investment. Like you play the game for a long time, you get good with him, you have him in your back pocket, then you switch to something else, and then take another 2 years to get good, to relearn everything again. You have it in the back pocket. But if you're
yeah,
not doing exactly that, you don't have that much time to spend. Not worth it, in my opinion.
yeah. So you APA is playing in A again, right? Is he currently
Correct.
playing ASOL or not?
I've not seen him touch ASO one time. He's
Oh damn,
like like last year. I think I played against his ASO one time in the last 2 years.
damn.
And I
No,
played Yone and I destroyed him. So
yeah, of course. Yeah, that's a brutal matchup for ASOL, right?
yeah, exactly.
Pretty
Exactly.
brutal.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're now moving on to my favorite tier of the entire tier list, right? This
You
is
love
the
dog
Emerald
shit.
plus dog shit tier list. And there's gonna be people that are fucking offended by this. There's gonna be people screaming in the comments,
Yeah,
Tim,
really.
yo, desperate Nasus kill, ranked top 10 Korea, top 10
70%
EU
winner or
West,
whatever.
70%
Yeah.
win rate, Omega shit stomping, he's gonna destroy you in the game, right? And look, he's just a freak, right? We gotta just admit it.
He's the exception, not the rule.
Exception. Like, there's really good reasons why these champions are down here, and we're gonna unpack them one by one. And we're just gonna look at the buckets that we got again, right? So let's start with my favorite bucket, which is the I don't have any transferable skills nor teach the fundamentals bucket, which is right here on the back. The Annie, the Vladimir, the Karma, and we've also included Heimerdinger right here,
Yep.
which is very similar in this regard. These champs do very unique things, right? They skip fundamentals, they trade really uniquely. And therefore, look, if you really want to play these champs as like a counter pick or you OTP them, you can make it work. These champs can work, but is it really worth investing so much time on champs that are like not necessarily the strongest in the meta? They struggle being blind picked, and then they're also so unique when they're transferable skills. I don't really think that it's worth investing into. And for improvement wise, I don't really recommend touching these champions. Anything you want to add to these?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. Yeah, you're spot on. The problem is they're like gimmicks. They're walking gimmicks, right? There's almost no mid lane fundamentals here on on the champions that can be
Yeah,
transferred to other skills. They're all unique, right? Any you spam R on the way, spam R to get prio. Vlad, you poor attrition. Everyone,
yeah,
don't move to any place. Heimer is just I don't even know where to start with Heimer.
Yeah.
Karma, like 2 index and lane and poking with RQ. Just too, just maybe they're effective, just not good for learning. I think that's the important thing I wanna say here.
Can absolutely win games on these champs for sure.
Yes, you can climb a lot with these. Like there's a challenger Vlad's at NA. Like you can win games with them. They're just that guy not on Vlad. There's a Vlad OTP on my server. Him not on Vlad is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my life. He's like worse than an average master player, and he's challenger. Like it's the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. So
And do that with an Oriana OTP. If he's gonna look Victor, he's gonna do just fine.
he's still gonna do well.
He's
Exactly.
gonna do fine. He can still
Yeah,
play at a high level as champion.
that's right.
Okay, now I want you to analyze Kill here, right? Why is Kill up in here instead of in any of the high tiers? Because she can win games. Matter of fact, I think she's decent in the meta too. I think she can play the game
Like
quite well.
yeah, like the reason why she's in D is like the way she wins games is not like any other mid. Like she's so weird because she actually skirmishes like not bad early game. It's actually weird. Like her early game raw 2v2s is actually not terrible. And if you watch Desperate Asses, let's tie it back to him. That's actually how he wins games in Korea, right? Because like Korea server is not about how hard they can win lane. It's like how much prio can they generate and skirmishes can they fight. And Kale is actually like okay at fights even if
Yeah.
if you're second, right? Because it's the designer of kit. So it's like she like wins games in a really unintuitive way. That's like really weird. And then like you have to be like an OTP for like 5 years to understand all the nuances of Kale. It's like, oh, like level 2, I can all in on this matchup. Or like I buy Swifty so I can outspace them with my W on. You know, it's like really
Yeah.
weird shit that you do that's like not like any other champ. That's like very specific to just Kale. And yeah, it's just weird. Like I don't know. It's like the skills are not transferable and it's like very specific.
Yeah, and if I verse off against kill mid players in EU, right? Because
Yeah.
I versed off against Desperate Nasus plenty of times. Not only on his kill, also on his Nasus. And
Yeah.
whenever I play Syndra into him, I just have the feeling like I can't hit a spell. Like
Yeah.
he just does something that just makes it impossible for me to land a spell. He
Yeah.
uses his move speed and his fleet. If he takes fleet, he uses it really well. He rushes Swifties, and his movement and his ability to bait out spells is just next level. It's just
Yeah.
insane. And that's why he's making one of the weaknesses work. But good luck practicing this. The side
Yes.
laning and the mid game is very unique comparatively towards us. Your
Yes.
team fighting, the way you deal damage, it's auto attack based. It's best comparable to Tristana or maybe Cassiopeia, but that's about it. The damage patterns of all the other champs are so different. The skills are not very hard to transfer. The fundamentals that you learn on this champ are very unique, and therefore, as unfortunate as it is for all the kill enjoyers here, I know there's a lot of them, passionate kill players, but
Yeah.
she is dog shit.
And,
I'm so sorry.
and once again to say, guys, to reiterate, it's dog shit for improving, not dog shit strictly on effectiveness, right? Let's make that very clear. If you put in the time with Kale, she can actually be effective. But like, if you're starting from zero and like you're asking us which champs to pick, like that's why she's D, right?
Yep.
It's because the journey is going to be rough.
What I'm really curious to see, right? Because Desperate Nasus, right? He's a kill and
Yeah.
Nasus player. What would happen if we put him on Ari or Syndra?
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. Maybe he's good, right? Maybe
Yeah.
he's
I'd be
gonna get
curious.
exposed. Maybe he's good. I'm just
Yeah.
really curious what would happen. I think that, of course, he's an
100%.
insanely good player. You don't randomly get top 10, guys. Right?
Yeah.
You need to be a freak at the game to get top 10. And that means that he will easily get challenger on any champion if he puts
Yeah.
the time into it. But I'm curious to see how long it will take. That's my curiosity
Yep.
here.
Yep.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the training wheel champions, right? And the reason why these champs are
Even brand as well, right?
the brand
To a
as well.
certain extent.
Exactly. These are training wheel
Yeah.
champs. So these champs, their early lane is just weak. Okay,
Yeah.
they're really
Very
weak
bad.
early lane, very exposable, and they also teach the
Too
fundamentals.
telegraphed.
Yeah, very telegraphed, and especially Malza, they teach the fundamentals not completely. You skip wave management, you skip farming, and you're just kind of keeping your training wheels on, and therefore not fully learning the game. Vigar, really weak early lane. Brand, very, very squishy. The way he trades is just really unique. And Lux, of course, also just good luck landing a skill shot. I've played
Yep.
against like 20 Luxes, and there's only one Lux. I remember his name, Marcel Lux, that guy. He's like 600 LP US or so. I versed him like once, and I was like genuinely impressed with how good he was at landing skill shots. And if you need to land skill shots at that degree to get to 600 LP, let alone above that, right? You need to be a freak at landing spells.
Yeah.
It's really, really, really hard to climb on these champions. And for
Yeah.
improvement purposes, they're not the best, therefore.
Yeah. And that's the reason there's an NA OTP Yozu. He doesn't play mid Lux ever. Like every time I play against him in mid Lux, he always loses because it's just bad in mid. Again, it's much better in bot. Lux is way, 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 way better in bot because the telegraphed abilities are way harder to deal with in bot because the lane is shorter and tighter, and
And
you
the
can get
players are
push easier.
worse.
The players are
It's
worse.
true. It's true.
Yeah, yeah, the players can't dodge skill shots for
Yeah,
shit.
it's true.
Yeah. And mid game, you can instantly get mid lane control for free, right? And you have a support who's usually setting you up. So that's why Chamberlain Lux is just she's strong in bot, terrible in mid. Mal's just I don't even know where to start with this guy. Like just terrible in every single way.
Yeah.
Low damage, no mobility, easy to interact with. Actually, a lot of counterplay. As
Telegraph.
weird as that sounds. What happened?
Really telegraphed. Super
Yeah,
telegraphed.
telegraphed. Yeah, he's telegraphed. Exactly. He's got a lot of counterplay in his kit. Once you know how his E works, his trading is bad. He has nothing. Right. The best thing he can do is like beat Annie, who's also bad. Right.
Yeah.
Which is why I think BDD played Mal against Annie or something in one game.
Yeah, it's a good counter because you
Yeah.
kind of stylistically, the mini game that Malzahar plays beats the any mini game. It's like mini games, these champs. And
Yeah.
if you win the mini game, then your champ is really good. If you play
Yeah.
Malzahar against a champion that cannot interact with the Malzahar mini game, right, then your champion will be really, really, really good.
Yeah.
But there's just
Yeah.
a lot of champs that can interact with the Malzahar mini game. That's the problem.
Yeah, also like good luck blinding Mouse. I think one time somebody blinded Mouse in GM against my Pix Boulder. I'm not joking. I 225 at 15 minutes. I
That's crazy.
Elder Dragon at 15 minutes because I kept queuing his minions.
Yeah.
So good luck blinding Mouse as well. That's
Yeah,
gonna be completely
brutal.
unplayable. Yeah.
Brutal. So there's one champ that we haven't really touched upon, and there's also a lot of Talon fanboys in the chat. So we got to figure out why Talon is dogshit tier in mid lane, that is, because on jungle, let's put it in perspective. I think this guy is above Z tier. This champion.
Yeah, he's insanely good in jungle.
My
Climbing
God.
and learning.
Why is he
Yeah.
not that good on mid, AJ?
It's kind of like what we said with Kiana, just even more extreme, right? He's kind of balanced for jungle, right? Because that's the reality. Because he's so strong in jungle. So what happens is that in mid you become very gimmicky, right? You have to like again Nimbus cloak with ignite, cheese somebody level 2 to get a lane, or you've got a flash on their head level 2 just to get some poke damage to win your lane, right? Or you got to drop a wave to roam. It's like you're skipping fundamentals, hoping the enemy team as a whole doesn't know how to play against Talon, right? If everyone on the enemy team knows a little bit of what Talon wants to do and respects it, you are completely cooked. You're out of the game. There's nothing there's nothing you can do, right? You need the snowball, but you don't have the tools to consistently snowball a Talon, right? Even more so than Kiana, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because Kiana has a little bit more range. Kiana is a little bit less telegraphed in a way because
She's more flexible.
she's more flexible. Yeah,
With dashes can go any direction. Talion
exactly,
doesn't really have any escape dashes unless
exactly.
he's next to a wall.
Yeah, so that's why I think Talon is just a little worse than Kiana in that regard, and Cat as well.
Absolutely. Now, beautiful. So we covered every single champion on all the different ranks.
Yeah.
To really put it in perspective, guys, right? If you're an Emerald Plus player and you're looking to climb, start by locking up Syndra. And as a final thing that I want to do is because there's some people that now have a basic idea of what each champion does. I want to give a few examples of how to build a champion pool if you're an Emerald Plus. Because in Emerald Plus, you want to have usually a little bit larger pool than the ranks below. So let's just create a few champion pools based on some of the champions, but all of the different classes that we eventually pointed out. Exactly.
Yep.
So let's start with how we would like. This is something that we do in our coaching program on a daily basis, by the way. We constantly give feedback. So we've had like so much reiteration and also seen the results of the players. So we know exactly what we're talking about here in this case. Now, we're going to talk with, if you're looking to pick up Syndra, right? What should we actually pair Syndra with? Well, one of the key things that we want to do is we want to pair her with a champion that does something slightly different to her, but not too different to her.
Yes.
So if you're going to do Syndra plus Z, you might run into confusion.
Too much difference.
What would you pair Syndra with?
Arya Aurora.
Arya Aurora. That's absolutely fantastic combination.
Yep.
These are mages with strong lane, right?
With a little bit of assassin elements.
And a little bit of flexibility and a little bit of If you play versus a Jarvan, don't look Syndra, look
Yep.
Ahri or Aurora. And that's why
Correct.
currently my pool is Syndra plus Ahri. And
Yep.
I'm just only looking these two champs. I don't need anything else. They cover everything. Maybe these 5% of games where I want to have an 80
Yep.
mid, not necessary. Build champion
Mhm.
mastery, guys. Get
More
good at the
important.
fucking champs. Get your land your spells in the skirmishes. That's how you're gonna climb more than just winning that one flippy game that you get yourself a nice little smaller mid counter pick into Malzar, you know?
Exposing me, Tim. What the hell?
All right, so good other options, right? Is if you want to just look in the skirmisher class. If you want to do Talia, sure thing. Not the perfect
Yep.
fit because they're both weak to like heavy engage,
Yep.
but it can work. If you want to do the likes of Galio, great, fantastic
Mhm.
champion. It can
Yep.
absolutely work. Now let's go a bit of a completely different direction. Let's do Akshan. If you want to be a primary, no, we already did Akshan. Akshan's great with the likes of other skirmishes like Ari. Let's do Akali.
Yep.
If you want to be an Akali main, you say you get fucking excited. Akali, I want to kill people. What do you pair Akali with, AJ?
Yeah, so I would think about champions that Akali struggles into. First of all, that would be the first thing I would think about, right? So whatever matchups Akali would struggle into, like maybe you would not enjoy playing against a Rise or Aurora, and then pick one of the counter pick champions to have that's low mastery, right? Maybe you add a Mel, right? Because Mel in the right game, even with low mastery, you can make it work, right? And then maybe again, I would compare maybe put it together with an Aria Aurora again because they're hybridized, right? Or even a Zed, right? If you want to be a two trick, right? Because I think a Kali is Zed or a Kali Yasuo or a Kali Neferi, they're adjacent. So like if I think of Ira and a Kali main, my pool would look like a Kali, Neferi, Mel or something. That'd be my pool, and I would like take like the time to learn Mel a little bit just for the right games for Mel, right? Where they have a Sejuani plus an Ari or something, or Rise plus Sejuani, and I go Mel. Otherwise, I'm picking the Fairy or Kali, depending on which one I want to play.
Yeah, because the only thing you might run into in these type of positions is that Mel is maybe a little bit different in identity than
Yes, it is.
Akali.
100%.
So you gotta be a little bit careful with that. But if you
Yep.
can manage it, if you're aware of it, then it's totally fine.
Yep.
Let's go a little bit of a completely different direction. If
Yep.
you're a Yone player, what would you
Oh
pair
boy.
up with a Yone or like an Azir? Let's go funky
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. So yeah, if I was let's start with Yone because that was my comfort. That's what I did, right? What I again because Yone is so flexible. I want to pair it with another champ that's flexible, but a little bit lighter on that, right? A little easier to do. So my pool, the first champions I played to get the challenger, I keep saying the same champ, but it was Ari. I did Yone Ari, the challenger. Those are the only two champs I played. So I think again, I think Ari's a great binding slash glue
Yeah,
style champion because she's a jack of all
the
trades,
jack
right?
of
You
all
can never
trades.
go
Yeah,
wrong with Ari. So I would probably do Yone plus Ari, or I would do Yone plus LeBlanc or something that's completely lane oriented and a completely trade oriented rather than war of attrition based, but still that assassin feel and side lane feel, right?
yeah,
Or like let's do Azir, right? Well, what is Azir good at doing, right? A lot of mobility, right? A lot of good side laning, weak lane. So I would compare that with something that kind of has strong side laning with a strong lane. Maybe Azir Galio would be insanely good together, right? That'd be a
really good.
ridiculously good pairing, right? Azir Rise would be an insanely good pairing. So
Yeah,
that's kind of how you want to think about it. It's like you want to have champs that are adjacent or extremely good counter pick champs as well that have low mastery, just in case you're playing away from your identity, you can still play it here and there. That would be my
absolutely.
recommendation.
So what you got is you got on one side of the spectrum, you got yourself the mages, and on the other side
Hmm.
of the spectrum, you got yourself the assassins. And the binding glue champions in between are these
Yes.
skirmish-oriented
Skirmish,
mages
these middle ones,
in the
correct.
likes of Ari, in the likes
Rise,
of
Vex, Bliss, Aurora,
exactly
LeBlanc.
Rise, Vex. These are champs that are really good at binding yourself in these type of
Hmm.
positions, and it makes these champions just incredibly good at yeah, just binding pools together.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
100%.
Okay, so I made a champion pool trinity because of that, right? So you can see that the champion pool trinity right here is that
Yep.
this is the way you want to view it. If you want to go into the assassin bucket, right, and you want to like play an assassin, pair it with a skirmish mage. If you want to do a
Yep.
control mage, pair it with a skirmish mage. This is a little bit far apart. If it fits perfectly, you get a lot of reps in, you can make it work. But
Yep.
usually these binding dudes is these skirmish mages, and this is where the money's at in the current meta of mid
Yes.
lane, because we also recognize that these are the champions that will just allow you to win the game
Yep.
over and over and over again because they're just so consistent at executing at these fights. And that's what the
Yep.
game is all about.
Yep.
Fantastic, guys. Now, if you guys want our help to build the champion pool, to climb in the next season, because the season is going to be a banger, check out the link in the description. And if you have any other questions, put it in the comments. Really appreciate AJ for taking this time. This was a
Thanks for
massive
having me, man.
banger of a
Very
tier
fun. It
list here.
was very
And
fun.
yeah, I thank you all for watching. See you guys in a new video. Peace out.